Hello again, friends. And you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru right here on Tuesday this week. We needed an extra day to get caught up on all the wild and woolly activity in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host, the great Brian Last. Hope everyone's staying safe, wearing a face mask. And joining me, as he does each and every week, the man who answers your questions, sent in to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com and even on Twitter, using the hashtag CornyDriveThru, the exalted one of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Warmth, Jim Cornette.
I don't know if they're wearing face masks, but you might be wearing a body cast by the end of today, pal.
Me?
I'm going to hit you so hard it's going to make your knees freeze, your liver quiver, and your spleen turn green.
Why is my liver going to quiver?
Why is your nipple going to quiver? You fucking prick.
What did I do? Come on.
You told me to do this. And I'm a bit pissed off at some of the fucking cult members as well, the listeners out there in podcast land. I'm a little upset at them also because the reason why we're late is not because we had to catch up on all the wild and woolly happenings in the world of professional wrestling. We waited a day so that we would have time to view. This didn't have anything to do with professional wrestling. The latest pay-per-view offering from our friends at Outlaw Incorporated, Mud Show Central. And I said, do we have to watch this? And you said, the people expect it. They want to hear it. Everybody on Twitter, all of the last fucking several days, I can't wait to hear what Jim Cornette's going to say. But I can't wait to hear about what Jim Cornette's going to have to say when he verbally eviscerates this abomination and blah, blah, blah. And so as a professional, my obligation is to give the people what they want and to give you what you wanted and them what they wanted. I had to give up it seemed like 3.5 years. Prison sentences have come and gone quicker than the start and finish of this fucking fiasco, this four-finger stinker. People are trying right now to get goddamn refunds for the tickets that they didn't buy because they weren't on sale. That's how bad this show was. And it's your fault, and I'll never get that time of my life back. And I put it off I recorded it on Saturday night because I was up 6 o'clock Saturday morning, working all day, going to the post office and coming back to make sure the Cornette's Collectibles customers are as happy as they can be. More on that later. And I worked all day Saturday, and by 8 o'clock or whatever, I'm not going to fucking face 3 hours of this thing. So I recorded it. I figured that way I've got Sunday to watch it. And then Monday, we're going to record this program that airs, as you mentioned, on Tuesday. But Sunday I was working hard also, and I just couldn't bring it was like an elective surgery or a dental procedure that you put off till the very end because you know it's going to be painful. And so finally I got up this morning at 6:30 in the morning, so I had time to watch this fucking thing before we recorded this program, and I blame you, Brian Last.
Well, if I can say something in my defense, because Stephen Pianu's not here to help me out right now, let me just say that I had very strong feelings about this show, and I thought maybe it was just me, because it seems like so many people on social media have loved this show, thought it was just a great laugh, had a great time watching it. I didn't. But I thought maybe you would. Maybe I was in the minority here, and you would tell me that, no, Brian, you just don't know wrestling. This was a fantastic card. Great American Bash 89, WrestleMania 3,
oh, God,
Double or Nothing 2.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Don't even put those shows' names in your filthy, filthy mouth, you filthy, filthy whore, Brian Last. Filthy, filthy.
You see, if we had a sponsor for soap right now, it would be perfect.
That would be a great segue, but we don't. I can't. Besides that, I can't wash the feeling off of me that I got by way. The only logical answer to what we saw, and then we'll talk about it here in a little while on the review. The only logical answer to what we saw is, has LSD made a resurgence in either Florida or in the pro wrestling community that a decent number of people I won't say large, but yeah, it was a large number of people. There were at least 15, 18, 20 minds involved, and that they all thought that this would be a good idea to do this on television. Anyway,
I think LSD would have produced something better, quite frankly. As someone who has taken LSD, I think it's really unfair for you to besmirch.
Oh, now you're one of them fucking hippies too now? One of those hippies?
I mean, I'm not on it now.
You know what? Maybe that would have made the show better.
It would have. I think if they were on LSD or perhaps magic mushrooms, this would have been a much better show. The problem was they weren't on anything except their own egos.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what they're on top of Ego Mountain. They ought to send the fucking people that buy the pay-per-view out a dosage of some kind of hallucinogen to properly prepare them for what they're going to see. Anyway, what you folks are going to see here in the near future is your packages from Cornette's Collectibles. I want you to know that our long national nightmare is finally over with. The backlog from April has been cleared. All the domestic orders are winding their way now in the Postal Service to their intended recipients or have already been delivered. And international folks, by the time you hear this, there will only be about 60 international packages. I put on a surge over the holiday weekend. There'll be about 60 international packages waiting to be sent out the rest of this week. They are time-consuming. And for the folks who have ordered in the last 7 days since we opened up the store again on May the 18th after that closure to catch up, you folks are going to be getting your stuff in the mail starting, well, it's going to be starting to be in the mail starting this weekend. You're going to be getting it at the start of next week, the first of you. And as I've mentioned before, we're going to keep a 10 to 14 day turnaround from the time you order it until the time I send it out, because that's the way for me to be sane and still provide proper service and also sleep and eat. So I'm not going to mention what's for sale on the website that I'm not going to plug. These products sell themselves. Obviously, I've been begging you people to stop sending me money for 2 months. You didn't listen, so the products are selling themselves. I didn't even mention in a lot of cases what was on sale. But there's no reason to be hysterical about this. Don't send me to an early retirement home. I may be rich, but I'd be a vegetable. Move in an orderly fashion. If you'd like to purchase some of the souvenirs and fine products, move in an orderly fashion to your computers or your devices, and don't all become an angry mob. But things are looking good again in that respect. Thank you for your support, ladies and gentlemen.
You're welcome.
I didn't thank you. I said ladies and gentlemen, and you have fit neither description so far here this morning.
You're making me feel like an executive for AEW right now, and I think this is terribly unfair. But before we get going, I know we have a review, we have questions, we even have a few songs here, but a couple things. One note, you mentioned you were going to watch episode 2 of The Undertaker Last Ride documentary.
Well, now I understand now episode 3 is out now, isn't it?
Episode 3 is out now, but you did not have time to do that because of the marathon AEW show.
See, if you hadn't have mentioned that, nobody would have brought it up. Now they're all saying, Corny fucked off again and he didn't watch the Undertaker show, and nobody would have thought of it otherwise. You've just buried me here publicly. You're not helping your case any this morning, brain.
I'll say that hopefully you'll have a chance to watch this fine documentary series.
I actually want to see that, but I'm being forced to look at people's goddamn nightmares after they've had Welsh rarebit or dinner at Taco Bell.
Well, before we get going with the review and everything else we have in store for
everyone. See, that was both a very a crude, flatulent joke and a very witty, deep, obscure literary reference as well.
If you say
right
so.
In the same line from Jim Cornette.
Well, what I was going to say is that I know
dreams of a rarebit fiend. Have you ever, while you were on your LSD, did you ever have some Welsh rarebit and go into the fucking?
No, I was usually listening to Screamadelica.
All right.
Well, listen.
Listen.
You won't even let me finish a sentence here. We have so many questions. We're going to get to them later in the show. But there is one I want to bring up here at the top of the show because we have been inundated with questions about a specific issue. Obviously, a very hot-button issue in the world of professional wrestling was your comments about Becky Lynch and her pregnancy. For the record, I don't agree with your comments. I want to make sure I get that out there for everybody. But someone who seems to be quite upset is Seth Rollins, who you previously knew under his name Tyler Black in Ring of Honor, and you obviously had a good relationship with him. It appears that you have hurt his feelings with your thoughts about this matter, and I wanted to give you a chance here at the top of the show to address Seth Rollins' feelings and just where you are at currently with your thought process on this.
Well, by the way, but you sure just jumped away quickly from the fucking line of fire, and I don't agree with them, and we'll talk about that in a second. But no, honestly, I feel bad that I hurt Seth Rollins' feelings. I do. I seriously, legitimately, this is not part of a bit. I felt bad that I hurt his feelings. I wouldn't have felt bad if I'd have made him mad, because people in the wrestling business get mad all the time, right? And I feared he might get mad because when I was criticizing the timing of the incident, he had a hand in the timing. So I thought he might get a little mad about that. And, you know, people get mad all the time and blah, blah, blah. So that would have been, but when he said I actually hurt his feelings, that made me feel bad, because I did not believe that I said anything that should have hurt Seth Rollins' feelings. And the bone of contention where I hurt his feelings was that I said bad things about his wife. And obviously that would tend to hurt one's feelings. But, and I want you to help me here, Mr. Don't Agree With Me Either. Let's go back. And did I say anything bad about Becky Lynch as a talent or as a person? I said she was the biggest female wrestling star in the world, and maybe the biggest in the world, because there ain't a lot of big male stars these days. That's not bad. I said she was a female Stone Cold that put her fucking, that she was a huge box office draw and the most important member of the women's division. I never say anything about her looks. I think she's a very attractive young lady. I did paint a less than rosy picture about the physical effects of pregnancy, but I have heard these things, and never having been pregnant by myself, from all the pregnant women I've ever heard talk about being pregnant, have said these things happen. Did I quote any side effects of pregnancy that do not exist? I don't believe I did. But I didn't say anything bad about Becky Lynch as a person. I put her over as a talent. And I was talking about the astonishing timing of the situation. And as I don't know whether that Seth had heard the actual show or whether he just read the clip or read the text of it on that everybody was clipping and putting on their little play websites where they play Wrestling Reporter, which was a little harsher than the overall tone of the piece. But I didn't say that, and I've actually in the past I've said that Seth Rollins is an amazing worker and one of the best in-ring talents that looks like a superstar, and I've taken issue with how they present him. They've managed to make him boring with his Monday Night Messiah thing. But over the overall bigger picture was, I didn't say anything bad about Becky Lynch, besides the fact that she had gone and got pregnant at a time when she has attained a spot that few ever attain and that all aspire to in the business, and is making a shit ton of money. So that's the worst thing I said about Becky Lynch. Did I miss anything, Brian?
I don't recall you saying anything specific about Becky Lynch or her as a person or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you very much. You sound like Tony Schiavone when I would ask a question as a heel that he had to answer in the affirmative and agree with me. I had to drag it out of you. But what Seth also went on to say, though, was the whole thing about this mindset. It's misogyny and women and the mindset must be eradicated. And it was like I said these horrible things about her and her mother and her dog and her whatever the fuck. And that I hope the kid was sold in service of Satan or whatever. It's like, this is because I said, what the fuck at the timing, and you're the biggest star in the world and you're making a lot of money. I even said on the program that aired after the fact, the next program when we followed up, this doesn't apply to all women. I don't, as a matter of fact, they can go and have a baby. I can't stop them. But I don't have an opinion on all women having a baby. I have an opinion on a woman having a baby when she's in a specific instance where it throws the entire program and other co-workers and the whole fucking shooting match into disarray. Whether she be the star of the hottest television program on network television, someone who can't be pregnant. Can you imagine, when Linda Carter was Wonder Woman, if she'd have showed up pregnant? Wonder Woman's looking a little heavy these days. Or if the same thing would apply if it had been Ronda Rousey as UFC champion, being promoted in a big pay-per-view fight that was going to make her and other people literal tens of millions of dollars. And suddenly, nope. Or and the TV thing has happened in some case. Remember in the 60s, 70s situation comedies, they'd have a woman carrying a laundry basket around or a pot of flowers or something when her character was not supposed to be pregnant. But when you have an athlete, somebody on the Olympic team, the star Olympic gymnast, every 4 years they get their opportunity and the star is suddenly pregnant before the fucking Olympics and all the other team members, blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm talking about. You can be a bank teller and get pregnant and still be a bank teller, or a fucking lawyer, or a doctor, or not when you're actually giving birth, obviously. I think you have to take a little time off, but you see where I'm going with this. It doesn't not only affect your millions of dollars and what you've worked for all your life, but everybody else's millions of dollars and what they've been working for. And as a promoter and booker for more time than I was a talent, I've had people quit the business on me in the middle of a run. I've had people fucking take other more lucrative offers in the middle of a run. I've had people get fucked up on drugs and just leave in the middle of a run. But I can't imagine at that level somebody being the biggest star in a business and poof. So that's where I was going with that. Here's another thing. I hope that all the people who were outraged on Twitter, or I should just say people on Twitter, because if you're on Twitter, you're obviously outraged. But the people who are outraged on Twitter about he thinks he can decide whether a woman has a baby or not. Think about the or not part, because there's a lot of people out there that think it's just fine for you to have a baby, but the or not part is where they draw the line. And a lot of them actually, instead of just doing podcasts and expressing shock and dismay that somebody doesn't want to make that fucking however many $1 million next year, they actually make laws and public policy. And with them, a woman can have a baby, but the or not part is a big issue. So, and there really isn't a choice without the or not part, is there? If you take the or not out, the choice kind of goes away with it. So if you're blistering me because I'm telling Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch that they can't have a baby, then go out there and blister the people who really are telling all of you, whether you are bank tellers or fucking attorneys or goddamn street sweepers or whatever. The ones telling all of you whether you can have a baby or not. So I'm sorry I hurt Seth's feelings. But once again, I think the millions of dollars that they have made will probably assuage his feelings. And as far as Cornette's just such a misogynist because he doesn't think women should have a baby. As long as it's not my baby, I don't give a fuck what you do. But I'm entitled to the right to tell you you're fucking crazy for what you're giving up. But I didn't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. So, I got an idea. If anybody wants to, let's say that one of the listeners out there just happens to win the lottery, and with all that 60 or 80 or $100 million he wins, he starts his own wrestling promotion, because what do fucking rich marks with too much money and not enough product knowledge and fucking experience do? They start wrestling promotions, and he somehow finds the biggest women's wrestling star in the universe and she's on top, and suddenly she gets pregnant in the middle of her contract, and he wants to sue her for her money. Who is he going to call?
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still sue the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you happen to be a wrestling promoter and you have the biggest star in the business, male or female, working for you, and suddenly they get pregnant or just say in the middle of their contract, well, we ain't going to do this anymore, but they still want you to pay them, well, then naturally you're going to call Stephen P. New. But since that might not happen to everybody in the audience, if you have a problem, if you have to try to take somebody to court to get your justice, to get your legal day in court, because a big corporation has fed you poison or poisoned your air or water or been negligent, harmed you or your family or members of your social circle, that's why the guy that's on your side is always available for you. Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. The man who will fight for your rights. And I guess now that I think about it, Brian, it probably is a more common occurrence that people would be taking medicine that causes cancer or genital gangrene or something that's bad for them, like these big pharmaceutical companies put out, or using Roundup or the asbestos-laced talcum powder that causes cancer, rather than probably more people have that happen to them than have the biggest wrestling star in the world working for their promotion. So I guess that's why Stephen's so busy. You would agree.
I guess so.
I guess that's why he's so busy. Anyway, folks, he's one of us. He's on our side. He is the consigliere of the cult of Cornette. And if he can't help you, then he will find somebody that can, or he will tell you that you're beyond help, because he's also honest. He's the one, the honest attorney. We found him, and we're bringing him to you. 888-692-8084, newlawoffice.com. Boy, howdy, I'm telling you what, if Stephen P. New cannot get your ass paid, your ass does not accept cash.
That's right. Well, where are we going from here?
I don't know. I got a question. You see, here's the thing, actually. Also, I had an email. Let me do this email first, and then I have a question from one of the listeners. Phil from the UK wrote, Dear Jim, thank you for your years of servitude at the head of the table of the cult. Myself and John Fell and a few other members have been discussing our concerns, and we felt now was the time to bring these to you. And boy, this is the day for it. It has come to our attention that not only has Charlie from Starkville taken John's rightful place as official figurehead of the Drive Thru questions, but he is also none other than the devious, slimy, at times incoherent and obtuse so-called Great Brain Last. If he's so great, how come he has to send his questions in under a gimmick name? Jim, we are all concerned and worried for your safety. If Brian can do a work on John Fell like this, what else is he capable of? The man is clearly a monster. Kind regards, Phil and several concerned members of the cult. Are you indeed, Brian Last, here in front of the public, if you will? Are you indeed a.k.a. Charlie from Starkville?
I certainly am not. I know Charlie's real name, and now I'm not going to put it out there in the sphere because these people will harass him and bother him.
They'll hunt him down.
Let me say this. I was speaking to John Fell last night. He's fine. So I don't know who this Phil clown is trying to besmirch my good name, Charlie's good name, and John Fell's fantastic name.
John just doesn't want to be confrontational. I think he suspects that indeed you are Charlie. There's been more and more fingers being pointed.
Why doesn't anyone think that John Fell is Charlie?
Well, now you've just blown my mind.
I never heard you pause.
How the fuck would, oh my God, no. Can it be true all along that John has created an alter ego so that the alter ego will take the questions away from him on the drive-thru, and then he can make a babyface comeback later and fight him? That sounds like a fucking M. Night Shyamalan fucking movie.
No, those movies are terrible. But I think what we're saying is that if you really look at it, I mean, I never thought about this until we're doing this. I'm thinking out loud. Around the time Charlie's questions started getting on the show, John Fell stopped sending in as many questions.
He felt he was being too hoggish of the spotlight, of a personal trait of humbleness that obviously Charlie from Starkville, whoever he may be, does not share.
Fell felt that he was hogging the spotlight? That's what you're trying to say?
That's what Fell felt.
I don't know. There's something fishy going on. How do we know Phil isn't Charlie from Starkville sending in an email to you to get a little extra attention?
Wait a minute. What if Phil is really Fell, who felt that things were getting fishy?
You know what? Maybe I am on LSD.
Well, it was Claude Cooper, the kleptomaniac from Cleveland, that copped my clean copper clappers kept in the closet. And if I ever find kleptomaniac Claude Cooper from Cleveland that copped my clean copper clappers kept in the closet, I'm going to clobber him. All right. Anyway, I got an email with a brief question here. Won't take up too much of your time, brain. But Alice, actually, not that one that you might take up, but there's more than one. But Alice wrote, "Hi, Jim. I was curious if you could elaborate on this. I've always wondered when a wrestler is calling moves in a match, quote, tackle, sunset flip, elbow, etc., how does their opponent know if they are to give or receive the maneuver?" And I guess to someone who's never been in wrestling school, like most of the fucking All Elite Wrestling roster, and then maybe because of the plethora of injuries, that may be a question that might need to be asked. But that's part of the thing that, people think when they hear so-and-so calls a match, that they're having this fucking conversation where they're having this give and take where like, okay, I'm going to pick you up and slam you down and then you kick me off. Okay. And I'm going to do this and that, while they're doing all this shit. It's one of the main reasons why you need to go to a proper wrestling school that it teaches basics and fundamentals, because if you don't pick up on this ahead of time, you're going to be in serious trouble. But a lot of it is, and obviously now guys talk over their match beforehand anyway. It's not as it was in the old days where in most cases the locker rooms were separate. Even when they weren't, guys got their finish from the booker, and in terms of, and the finish, could be varying in length, as we've talked about here on the program, but a lot of times it was just who goes over and you guys work it out. And then they would maybe mention an odd spot that they might want to do that the other guy, if they had never worked with him, might want to do. And otherwise it was called in the ring anyway, because how do you know what people are like until you go out there and see? And then suddenly it became a thing to plan your match ahead of time. A lot of it is positioning or where you are in the match. For example, if you've got a headlock on somebody and they call a spot shooting you off that begins with tackle, sunset flip, whatever the fuck, then as they're shooting you off, guess what? You're giving him the tackle because you're going to be the one coming back. So if I've got a headlock on you, Brian, and you shoot me off, and as you shoot me off, you call one tackle, drop down, hip toss, kick off, 2 arm drags, drop kick, powder out. Well, that's easy because you're shooting me off. Boom. I'm giving you the fucking tackle. Then I'm hitting the ropes again, but you're dropping down. I'm coming off the other side. You're giving me a hip toss. Since you've hip tossed me, I kick you off. Since I've kicked you off, I've got the fucking control. So as I come up, you charge at me. I give you arm drag. Then I give you another arm drag. Then I hit you with a drop kick and you take a bump out on the floor. And then I get up and glorify in the fucking idolatry that the people are giving me. That's it. And but if as far as whether to give it or to take it, if somebody's standing in front of you and says, watch the elbow, chances are an elbow is going to be coming at your fucking face here in a second. But it's not just like you have time to think about these things and or that this is a fluid, coherent conversation, give and take going on. But the guys who are the best at calling a match, I mean, I've worked with Jerry Lawler, such as it was, not, 30 minutes, but I worked as a manager against Lawler, and you wouldn't even see his lips move. You would just hear his voice like in your head, like he was telepathic, just in the fewest amount of words possible to tell you exactly what to do. And sometimes, if somebody would grab you in a way, you're like, what the fuck? And they just say, just fall straight back. Okay. And well, whatever is happening to me, I'm just going to fall straight back. Don Bass, as he rolled out of the ring one time, one of the assassins, and I was his manager. As he rolled out of the ring, he'd been drop kicked into fucking goofiness, and he rolls out on the floor and he reaches and grabs me by the shoulders and like he's going to hug me and commiserate with me. But he said, just hold on. And then he proceeded to turn me and stumble backwards over a fucking chair. He got his leg in between my legs, not to kick me in the nuts, but just to flip me over. And he held on to me because he had my jacket, so he was able to tuck my head. And monkey flipped me over the top of him and the chair onto the floor on the other side and set me down and said, okay, thanks. I didn't even know where I was going. But the guys who knew what they were doing could not only take you there, but also tell you right before you had to go what the quickest way to get there safe was. That's how to, and now the guys call it beforehand and it's so fucking elaborate and so contrived and there's so many ducks and dodges. That's why it looks like a fucking martial arts movie fight or a fucking gymnastics routine. And occasionally you see that they get fucking stuck or lost because they've memorized something that's too long for them and somebody's in the wrong place. Or they grab each other and, go down and whisper this fucking long-winded soliloquy in their ears because they're trying to get back in the right place. But it's constantly should just be moving, and you don't need to. Nobody ever called shit, more than 4 or 5 moves, like a spot is 4 or 5 moves, tackle, drop down, hip toss, whatever. But nobody called like way out ahead of in a match as they were calling it on the fly because you just concentrated on what was happening right then. And if you worked with a guy regularly, you knew the fucking spots. You just call it the Midnight Express. We had code words for all of our fucking spots. And we just say that. Double duck, whatever the fuck. And that was it. But anyway, that's how sometimes, obviously, as you see on television, people don't know whether they should give or take the move. And that leads to a lot of fucking misery. You should always know, Brian, whether you're going to be the one pitching or the one catching, right? In every facet of life.
Was there anyone particularly bad at either calling spots or hearing spots?
Oh God. I not having to work with guys in that way, as another wrestler, instead of just doing the manager stuff, I didn't have to, unfortunately, sometimes I didn't have to go through that on a regular basis. But there were a lot of times, I especially remember in the Crockett days, when the crowd was so loud, you couldn't fucking hear anything, even if the guys who could hear shit. And of course, a lot of times, the old timers, that's where Harley Race got that because he's come back, kid. He's constantly making noise so he can fucking mutter things under his breath, and people, that was an old timer thing. But it all kind of blended to me because after a while I'd get used to him making noise and I'd forget to pay attention to what they were saying. So I always liked the guys that just, were men of few words and only told you shit you needed to know.
So some of the people who get criticized in recent years for calling spots too loudly, do you think primarily it would have been ignored in the previous era because the crowd would have been louder so people wouldn't have heard them?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Because, there was never I can't remember going to the matches as a fan or when I first got in the business in the 80s. I can't remember until the 90s when I ever experienced being at ringside for a match where the people were just totally quiet and didn't react until a move happened. There was always noise. There was always people yelling, to cheering the babyface on or booing the heel or reacting to what was going on. If the guy's got a fucking armbar and the heel's selling, like, oh shit, they're all hooting at him. Yeah, fuck you. That's right. So it was, and plus we were always in, if not in major arenas, at least high school gyms and National Guard armories that had good sound reverberation, because I don't remember until when I was in the Memphis territory when I first started, until I went to Georgia in the summer of '83, I'd never actually seen a professional wrestling event for under 150 people before. It just didn't happen, at least not around here. And, even spot shows back in those days, if it was 500 or 600 people, that was kind of a bleh house, because that at $5-6 tickets, $2,500, $3,000. Every fucking dipshit town in southern Indiana and central Kentucky could do that. And did weekly. Every week there was some spot show somewhere drawing 500 fucking people. That wasn't a big crowd back in those days. So yeah, it was a lot louder and they made more noise. So, and I mean, as I said, in the Carolinas, it was so loud. Sometimes we had to scream at each other, me and Bobby and Stan, or Bobby and Dennis, just to be able to be heard. We were screaming at each other. We were partners, but you couldn't really call spots. You just had to kind of fucking feel it in a lot of cases. Or heat spot. Yell at Riggy's ear, heat spot. That's what he needed to know anyway. But I don't know. I think that's why everything looks so bullshit now, because they've made everything so complicated and contrived that they're constantly trying to set something up and get in position. The group of people on the floor, well, we'll talk about that later on, that all stand there not looking at the people that are punching them in the face because they're watching for the guy that's supposed to be diving on them. But they have to wait 20 or 30 seconds. Or the stone-faced look on everybody's face when they're ducking and leaping and, sweeping and missing and countering this long contrived martial arts sequence, and they're concentrating on not fucking up so they don't mean any of it. It's that kind of thing.
Good question.
Anyway, you know what? I'll tell you what the best segue in the world is. The best segue in the world is going from outlaw wrestlers sweeping and leaping and flipping and countering. And the reason why they do that with such lack of expression is because they don't eat good breakfast. They do not start the day out with a healthy breakfast.
I never thought of that as being a possible reason for all this.
I had a segue earlier, but we went in a different direction and I lost it. Anyway, everybody on Twitter that we're getting feedback from, on emails, everybody is talking about our newest sponsor, Magic Spoon, and the supernatural voodoo witchery that they have perpetrated to be able to make the best tasting cereal in the world. And one of the frosted tastes like cake, like birthday cake. The fruity, the blueberry, the whole 9 yards. It's got no sugar, 12 grams of protein, 3 net grams of carbs in each serving. So it's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. I don't even know what GMO is, but I don't want any of it. It doesn't sound good. But this is instead of being garbage, cereal for filled with sugar for kids, this is actually great tasting cereal, and it's healthy, and the kids will like it because they don't know any different, but you'll like it because it tastes good. Magic Spoon. And if you go to magicspoon.com/drive and grab a variety pack, you can use our promo code DRIVE to get free shipping. magicspoon.com/drive. Use the code DRIVE for free shipping on your first variety pack. And they're so confident, and now I see how they get away with this because nobody's going to take them up on it. They've got 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like this stuff for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked, but nobody ever asked for that because who cannot like this shit? And now everybody in my family again is ordering it. You've already gone crazy over it. Stacy eats it like we eat handfuls of it like trail mix around the house. She's already sent some to her mom and stepfather in California. It's spreading the world. I'd never even heard of this until recently.
I nibble on it all day. It's delicious. It's fantastic.
Well, and that's the first thing that you've agreed with me about today.
No GMOs.
Well, I thought that had to do with health insurance. That's HMO. Anyway, no HMOs, no Gary Michael Opeta. No Gary Michael Opeta in this cereal, folks. Magic Spoon. We're all eating it. You can't get away from it. It's good. All right. Should we talk about this freaking show?
Yeah, I guess.
See, I'm saving my cuss words for later.
Okay, let it build up.
Can we talk about this freaking show? Because see, Brian gets mad at me when I start right in with the fuckity McFucks.
That's right.
Because it makes his job harder. Did I wait long enough before I said fuck 16 times?
Well, I don't know if we're going to do a specific clip video of the introduction to the show. We'll see how things go.
Anyway, as I mentioned, I was not looking forward to seeing this show. And part of the reason was we cannot forget about this. To preface the program, apparently, they tweeted out a picture of who was in it now, even though they didn't have anything to do with it. The fucking Road Warrior Buck and his brother Balding Buck were in it.
It was the Bucks. It was Tony Khan. Yeah.
Tony Khan. And Lance Archer, Cody and Arn on one side with the Bucks, and Mike Tyson in the middle, and Lance Archer and Jake Roberts on the other side, all mugging and smiling for the fucking camera after Jake had, 2 weeks ago, dry humped Cody's wife and put a snake on her. But because Mike Tyson's star power is so magnetic, it was able to bring these two feuding entities, these two blood rivals together to mug for a picture and smile so they could tweet it out right before the fucking show because they were so proud of that hubcap fucking belt.
Tweeted out by Tony Khan before the show.
Tweeted out by the promoter. It would have been like if Vince tweeted out a picture of The Rock and Austin going over their match before WrestleMania 17. Fuck. And here, you know what? I'm not even done with this yet, but I got to have one that I can fucking lose here. You know what that was? That was your sports-based presentation promise, sunshine. That's what that was. Lying billionaire sack of shit. Milked us all. I saw through you. I'm the only one that saw through him from day one on his sports-based presentation. As soon as I heard him talk, as soon as I fucking heard what he thought, and as soon as I heard who he was going to be in business with, I knew that I just didn't know it'd be this quick that we ended up with this. But folks, now you know what it's like when kids who played wrestling in the mattress on their fucking bedroom floor get $1 billion to play with.
You know, it's funny. Someone just sent out, I guess, some quotes from articles when AEW first started or was first announced. I'm not exactly sure. And it was quotes from Tony Khan that AEW, like you said, sports-based presentation with less comedy. That it was going to be a clear alternative to what we're being presented with by the WWE.
If the WWE had done any of this, it would have looked better visually and it would have been more boring. And people would have fucking savaged it. But it's like, I swear to God, it's like this fucking cult that can't see through the goddamn emperor has no clothes and our president's a fucking moron. They're just blind to it. They're going to defend him no matter what. For the kind of people who like this kind of thing, this is the kind of thing they like. And they're not going to say a goddamn word about it. But what the fuck? What the actual fuck? Do they? All right, let's in order. It was bookended by ludicrosity. Is that a word?
No.
The first. Well, I just made it one. The first match on the show was a ladder match for their casino chip because they were supposed to be in Las Vegas, and it's their annual thing. And 9 guys in a ladder match to get the casino chip and they actually entered it. They did, I believe. Yes. For a title opportunity. Now they have transferred Vince McMahon's hatred of some words at random to their own company to where now, just like wrestlers don't even know that they're supposed to be called belts now, the wrestlers will be saying title opportunity throughout the entire business in the next couple of years instead of title shot.
At one point, Excalibur said, I don't know if it was the heavyweight championship or the TNT championship, but he said, you know, here he is. He has the championship title. And it's like, what? What is that?
That's like the fucking bread. Or the bread sandwich. All right. Anyway, so the ladder match, they have a few promos. Jelly Nutella was up first. He looks and talks like a beach crackhead that you asked to imitate a wrestling promo on your video camera in exchange for a crack rock. then here comes fucking, you roll a window down and there's some fucking goof crackhead on the fucking boardwalk and you say, hey, make us a funny wrestling promo. We'll give you a rock. And he does. He tries. That's what he did. Then was Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc with Penelope Ford. It looked like a casting call for a British remake of The Addams Family with an all-midget cast. Sabian's either 5'2" or Havoc was standing on a box. Go back and look at it. They stuck Chris Daniels in there. He did actually a good, serious promo about his partners. So the best promo was from a guy that wasn't in the match. And then, of course, best friends. You got Trent, Hatchet Head, and Pockets. And they did a goofy interview where Pockets didn't understand the fucking match or how to win. Typical horseshit with them. Then we have the ladder match for the title opportunity. Kazarian and Sky start out, the partners wrestling. Well, wouldn't you know who won the pony? And they did some nice spots and wrestled, and they're very athletic. But there's just no reason to have, unless it's meant as something important, why just have the partners? Because, that's a cool thing. The partners got to wrestle. Because marks are booking this shit. But then they had a nice double knockout, actually went head-to-head, and then here comes Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. But at that point, Havoc, who's not in the match, comes in behind, SCU, Havoc came in behind from the blind side with a ladder and knocked SCU out again while they were looking at fucking Sabian, but this was all in front of the referee. But then they explained, well, there's no DQ in a ladder match. Well, that's convenient. And there's ladders all set up around the ring instead of one. And, goddamn Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. They fucking take a somewhat shaky premise and have a classic match out of it. And then they've prostituted the fucking thing ever since. So Havoc, who's not in the match, and Sabian are beating up SCU in front of the referee because there's no DQ. So they've made the match garbage at 2 minutes in. And then here comes Darby Allin, who makes a little bit of a comeback and then spends forever setting up ladders and a barricade and comes off the top of the ladder, gets his skateboard, comes off the top of the ladder, puts the skateboard under his feet to skateboard onto the guy that he'd put on the fucking barricade that was leaning over for fuck's sake, yes, but he missed. And he fucking crashes and burns, and he's out for a while. This is less than 5 minutes into this fucking match. Pockets is next. And, of course, he wanders around and doesn't care and doesn't go to the ring and asks the announcers how to win the match and makes everything that you haven't been able to take seriously up until now even more stupid because he's a stupid idiot with a stupid gimmick and a stupid fucking match. And everybody else in this match had to lay still at ringside or disappear while he did his fucking gimmick for his adoring millions of fans that ain't watching on television. So it made all the guys look like idiots, even the ones that hadn't already been made to look like idiots. Then they did some comedy where Pockets dodged everybody and they fly out of the ring, and then he didn't know how to set up a ladder. Did you like that one, Brian? He doesn't understand the concept of a ladder. He just stands on the ladder as it's laying on the ground and reaches up.
No, this match wasn't really for me. I wasn't the target audience for this match.
Damn it. Could this match be for anybody? What could any adult? Anybody who was ever a wrestling fan who gave a shit? Anybody who isn't a complete jack-off and just wants to go out there and play with his friends? Oh, guess who's next? Colt Cabana. And Colt walks in and chats with Pockets and then pushes him out to the floor. I wrote, this is already excruciating. I wrote, I would be embarrassed for Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, but they brought this on themselves. So then Pockets beat up both members of SCU, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian, with his hands in his pockets. So they're meaningless now. SCU might as well fucking move somewhere back to California and set up a fucking orange stand. I wish I'd have had Pockets in OVW for 15 minutes just so I could tell him what I thought of him and then proceed to kick him out of amateur class in front of everybody. Then here comes Jelly Nutella. And he hit, I say hit in quotation marks, sloppy dives on everybody. And in between them, did you notice he was running in between the dives like he had diarrhea and he was trying not to shit himself?
No, but his pants always look like they're about to fall down.
No, go back and watch. Did you delete this already? I hope you did, actually. But I deleted it as soon as I could. But if you watch when he first came in and hit his dives. In between them, he was running like he had diarrhea with his fucking butt cheeks clenched together and little prancy fucking steps. Or maybe that's just how a guy who has never seen a fucking athlete in person runs. I don't know. Let's see. Now they're hitting each other with chairs. Well, that's good. Might as well bring that in. Then here comes Luchasaurus, old Dino. Luchasaurus is too long. We're going to call him Dino from now on. Dino makes a comeback. And then here was one of the spots where he tosses Sabian over the ropes to the guys who had been standing there literally for 30 seconds waiting to catch him for no other reason. So then, Darby Allin gets back in the ring and sells his left knee. I wrote he sells his left knee really well unless he's really hurt. Come to find out, he apparently was selling fairly well because, goddamn, he was decent later on, I think. Anyway, then the final guy is the mystery opponent that they've teased, right? And it's Brian Cage, who I have heard of. I've heard of his name. I've not seen him. Holy shit, he's huge. Jacked up bodybuilder. And he comes out with Taz. And then Taz, being the veteran and knowing that this thing is doomed, immediately turns around and leaves and walks backstage. So he wasn't out there to get all this shit on him. Have you seen Brian Cage before? I have never seen him.
I've seen clips of him. I don't know if I've ever watched a whole match of his, but I've seen highlights.
Okay, he looks fucking great, and he did some good shit. And once again, this illustrates either these people have no idea how to get new talent over, no idea how to get a monster over, no idea how to get anybody over, or they think this is the way to get him over. You don't get over when you win a fucking pissing match with a skunk. You don't win, or you don't get over when you win one of the worst matches that has ever been seen in the history of professional wrestling. A fucking mess when they've already buried you before you win the thing. So Brian Cage comes in. He's not very tall, but he's wide. He's got a great body. He beats up the midgets. He really looked impressive here. But because, as I wrote, but his debut in a stinker, rotten match like this is wasted. Everybody gloms on top of him and beats the fuck out of him, 8-on-1 or whatever, with sloppy fake brawling. They hit him with a ladder, knocked him to the floor, and then they covered him up with ladders. Well, they built a thing where he's in the middle. They put the ladders beside him. They put the barricade on top, one of the casino chips, the set pieces. They bury Brian Cage underneath all this stuff, and he doesn't move for over 5 minutes. That was their creative way to debut the fucking badass and then immobilize him where it makes him look like a badass. Oh, fuck it. This went on and on. If Ford is freely interfering, Havoc is freely interfering. Here comes Trent and Hatchet Head. They're interfering. Then here comes Marco Stunted Growth, just to make sure that nobody is taking any of these people seriously by this point, which, don't worry, mission accomplished long before this. But to make sure to piss on this whole thing, Marco Stunted Growth comes in with a 3-foot ladder and sets it up and climbs up on top of it and fucking grabs Pockets for a choke slam and gives Pockets a choke slam with Dino's help. somebody that alleges themselves to be in the professional wrestling business thought any of this was a good idea. Then Jelly Nutella gave Pockets a big slam onto the fucking poker chip that was sitting on top of Brian Cage, who still didn't come out. He's been under there about 5 minutes at my timer count. And, at 6 minutes, Cage finally comes out. And then, to make sure that he doesn't get over further, he gets with the big guy, Dino, and they go back and forth with nobody selling. And it got real sloppy because Dino has no clue how to work like a fucking big man, a monster. It's way too soon for Cage to be so competitive with an underneath guy. And Dino, please make no mistake, Dino right now is an underneath guy. So we know where Cage sits. Cage sits in the underneath section because he's, fucking hell. Cage finally wipes out Dino. He levels. Darby Allin came back. He wasn't crippled. He's back in this thing again. Then the spot was going to be to show how fucking powerful Cage is at this point after he's been buried by fucking job guys under debris for 5 minutes. We're going to now show how powerful he is. He's going to put Darby Allin on the ladder. The ladder is sitting across the goddamn turnbuckle. It was sitting across the ropes at the buckle, so it's level. He's going to put Darby Allin on the ladder. He's then going to pick the ladder and Darby Allin up at a press slam and throw it all over the top rope. But he puts Darby Allin on the ladder, but the ladder wouldn't cooperate. Because it tipped over. So then he has to do it again, and then he picks it up and he throws it all over everybody, and he climbs up and gets the chip and wins the fucking match. My thought at the time, and then I will give you your opportunity for a platform to respond. My thought at the time was, and I quote, absolute garbage match with all the comedy mud show goofs and rotten phony spots. And they think this is going to get Cage over as a top talent. Cage should call Stephen P. New to sue whoever booked this shit for negligence and career homicide. And we ended 40 minutes into the show, and this is all we've seen is this goddamn mess. The exact antithesis of what your goal is as a booker when you put together any kind of match. Every wrestler in this thing looked like an idiot for being in it, for cooperating with stupidity. The business looked silly and fake. There were no heels, no baby faces. One guy won, but nobody got over because it was a complete fucking mess. And people could have been seriously injured while they were doing this thing for no apparent reason. Fuck whoever inflicted this on the public. What'd you think?
I didn't like it. I mean, if I can give one positive, I said to myself in the middle of the match, Darby Allin just disappeared in the middle of the match for a long period of time. It was a long, long, long match. But I said there's only two guys. There's only two guys who can win this. Darby or Brian Cage. Those are the only two options. But you never know with these idiots. You never know if they're going to anoint or, push someone else up the card. And the two guys who I thought would win it, one of them ended up winning it. The match went on forever. It got too silly. I remember when ladder matches meant something. It was like, holy shit, a ladder match. And look, you can't go back in time. Once the cat was out of the bag, once you saw Shawn and Razor and a few other ones, it was never going to be that feeling you had that first time, but still it used to mean something.
Once there were 18 ladders at ringside, once they started putting together, shop class projects with the ladders and the tables, once they started adding multiple people, everyone fighting for themselves so it could make no sense. Once nobody knows who the heels and baby faces are, so you don't know who to cheer for, who to boo.
It was just a car crash. It was laid out. I thought the pacing was really poorly put together, or I don't even know if you put together pacing, but it was paced really poorly, I thought. And, again, going back to the whole sports-based wrestling thing, I think a lot of people were hopeful when AEW started that it would kind of be an American version of New Japan Pro Wrestling with staples of successful American pro wrestling mixed in, whether it be promos or angles or whatever it may be. But it would be serious matches with angles and promos. And this match was just filled with goofiness and bad comedy. I've said it before. I don't watch wrestling to see bad comedy. And I think the one thing that I thought was interesting was the reaction to this match and this show and the main event by a lot of people on social media who were just like, it was fun. I haven't had as much fun watching wrestling as this in a while.
Oh, God.
Wrestling is supposed to be fun. And
you know what? No, they never watched wrestling or they were never wrestling fans if they think wrestling is supposed to be fucking funny and silly and that they actually appreciate this. Because we hear from the other side, all the many millions of people who don't watch wrestling anymore because of this horse shit. And they were hoping for something different.
And I think a lot of people don't realize just how big that audience is. The audience that rejects this, the audience that doesn't like it, the audience that turns it off. We have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, you can measure it. It's all the people that were watching this shit up until about 15 years ago that don't watch it anymore.
Yeah, AEW's numbers ain't that much better than ours. We know how big the audience is.
Yeah.
But, I just think that this is a bad sign for things going forward, not just for AEW, but wrestling as a whole, because so many of the participants in this match are the kids who grew up out of the Attitude Era and out of the Ruthless Aggression Era and out of the WWE comedy era. And I've always said it, that they weren't interested in sports-based wrestling. They were interested in doing their version of WWE-style entertainment and bad comedy. And that's what this match was, and that's what various things on this show was.
And now for the future generations of wrestlers, they're going to grow up thinking this is what this stuff is supposed to look like because of these jolly jack-off jokers. And that's so we're done. I mean, it's over with this. But this sports-based pro wrestling promotion is a perfect example of why I have no desire whatsoever to be involved in pro wrestling ever again, because it's not going to get any better. It's going to keep getting like this until it goes away, because the people who want to be wrestlers are now not watching the great talents, the Flairs, the Steamboats, the whatever. They're watching goddamn goofs do skits. And so now, and it's a whole lot easier to get on a wrestling show than it is on Saturday Night Live.
And I think the other thing is, at times AEW tries to do some serious stuff on their shows. And when you have crap like this opening up your show and eating up such a large portion of the show, it takes away from the more serious stuff on the show, which, by the way, they could do a serious angle or a serious promo. It seems like they don't know how to follow up on that or make it work, but that's another story for another match.
Well, how are they going to do a serious angle when what else can be done to anybody? Well, we'll get to that later on.
Yeah, but no, I did not like the match. It was not for me. I am not the audience for... I'm one of the people who doesn't watch professional wrestling because it's fun. I watch it for the same reason that I like watching boxing or baseball. Although predetermined, I want to be able to lose myself in it. And there is someone you root for, there's someone you don't like, and not be treated like a child or an idiot, or have to suspend every, they say you have to suspend disbelief for professional wrestling. This is to a whole nother level. The guy doesn't know how to use a ladder. The little guy comes in with a 3-foot ladder. I mean, it's stupid. It's just stupid. And it's, whatever. It's Tim and Eric wrestling, and I don't get it.
Well, and also you say you don't watch wrestling for fun. You have fun watching wrestling.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant.
Well, no, I was helping you out there. Since you made me watch this and I didn't have any fucking fun. All right, but suddenly, for once on this program, a wrestling match broke out in the middle of this pandemonium. MJF and Jungle Boy. And I liked it from the start because not only did we have a babyface and a heel, but they actually started the match with a fucking lockup. Imagine that. So a wrestling match suddenly breaks out in the middle of Saturday Night Live. And I mean, what can you say? It gets old. He's the only one that tries. He's the only one that fucking knows what he's doing. He's the only one that gives a shit. MJF, he took his time. The fucking babyface outdid him at everything at the start. So then he sold his fucking knee, but it was a sucker job. And he fucking got some heat on Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy fought from underneath a number of times, but MJF would cut him off. Started working his arm, went back to it a number of times during the course of the match. once again, Jungle Boy would make a comeback. MJF had cut him off, but then they did the built to the big spot where Jungle Boy hit 3 dives in a row, and MJF actually sold them. And they built 1 dive through, 2nd dive through, 3rd dive over. He sold every one of them. They went back and forth. MJF kept going back to the arm. They did the go ahead and chop me spot, which I hate. I hate it.
Well, let me just jump in here. That was the one part of the match I really didn't like, and it is the spot itself, but it's also where the spot was in the match. It was in the middle of the match after all this stuff had already happened. It just slowed down to a crawl so they could do that. That's the one critique I have of this match.
And I know everybody does it, but it just doesn't make sense. And especially for a chicken shit heel like MJF, it probably was something Jungle Boy wanted to throw in, or well, I don't know, Jungle Boy. I shouldn't cast aspersions. Jungle Boy got the arm bar, MJF's hold, but MJF bit his fucking hand. Nice little heel out of the thing. Then the other thing, the big criticism that I have of this match, of the two, was the fucking reverse Hurricane Rana on the ring apron, which is stupid. There's no reason. If somebody didn't tell, is there anybody in a position of authority there? Do the inmates run the asylum? If somebody didn't immediately go to Jungle Boy and say, don't ever do that again, and if somebody didn't go to MJF and said, don't ever take that again, if somebody wants to give it to you, then they're not fucking really professionals, because it's just ridiculous. They do moves that look even worse, so it's not like it's a shocking goddamn move, hospitalization angle or whatever. It just really is dangerous. There's no way to take that bump safe, and it has no business being done. And it slowed the match down. Anyway, Jungle Boy hit a power bomb off the top rope, barely got the 2 count, but was still selling the arm, couldn't fucking keep it. But now MJF is selling his back, but then they go into a double bridge spot. Almost 20 minutes in, by the way, that's what Flair always liked with his athletic opponents like the Steamboats and the Magnums, Wyndhams, whoever. How deep in the match could they go and still nail the double bridge spot? That was a thing he liked to do. And finally, boom, MJF reversed the roll up a couple of times, and I would have tweaked this. He got that wrist clutch bridge thing, but he should have been pulling the trunks, because he beat Jungle Boy. And I guess they called it like that. They wanted him to do that, but he beat Jungle Boy 1, 2, 3 with a hold. He should have beat him and pulled the trunks. Otherwise than that, it made sense all the way through. Nobody fucking assed off. Everybody was serious. Jungle Boy sells. He's going to be a heck of a fucking babyface if they can get him away from the fucking little goof kid and use the big fucking Dino to help get Jungle Boy over, because Dino has a ceiling, but Jungle Boy can be a big star. Anyway, but that suddenly they know how to do it. When you see what's going on here and nobody is emulating this, I don't understand. But that's what happens when you get a goofy kid with a rich father that fucking has always loved wrestling and thinks he has any knowledge about how to actually do it when he doesn't. And he gets under the sway of a bunch of fucking outlaw mud show goofs who think their shit doesn't stink and love the smell of their own farts. And it becomes a goddamn parody of itself, because they can sway him and he already doesn't know what he's doing. And then you have just enough fucking veterans who will come in and take a fucking big check at the end of their career or whatever and humor this motherfucker. And, what you get is this show minus the MJF versus Jungle Boy match. So,
do you think it would have hurt MJF if Jungle Boy had gone over?
Too soon. Yes, it would have. It didn't hurt Jungle Boy to get beat by. I would rather he got fucked by MJF instead of beat. But it didn't hurt Jungle Boy to get beat by MJF, because MJF still has heat. People naturally don't fucking like him. He was heelish. He's already. He got that win over Cody. He's undefeated in their record keeping. They've got to make the most out of MJF, because he's already there where they can use him. Jungle Boy, they have to build from the middle of the card as an underneath babyface that gradually comes on, finally does the Hail Mary victory and gets hopefully fucking confetti from the ceiling and a big win over a big name. But that, you can take time with that. You can build a babyface like that by beating him, sometimes putting stumbling blocks in his path, etc., on the way to the top. A heel, especially one as good as MJF, keep putting the fucking heat on him now. Anyway, so pretty much the fucking good part of the show was over with. Did you have any other further comments about MJF and Jungle Boy?
I'm very high on Jungle Boy. I think MJF is one of my favorite people in the entire wrestling business. I wish there was another place for him to work. A place that took wrestling seriously, and there really aren't any options. That's the saddest thing. Now I'm going to say what I was saying for years. I wish there was an alternative to WWE. I wish there was some rich guy out there who wanted to fund an alternative to AEW and WWE and get on real television and do an alternate to the entertainment stylings of Tony Khan and Vince McMahon. That's really what I want, and I wish MJF would end up there, but...
Well, and don't hold your breath. And that's why I was fucking pissed off about this whole thing from the start, because I knew what this thing was going to be. And as I predicted, and you can go back and even play the tape if you want to, I said this last year, this will be the fucking chance in our lifetimes, in our generation, that a major network will put a wrestling show on and that a big money wrestling promotion will come along. And it's been fucking pissed away and wasted by this rotten start, by rotten talent decisions, by goofy people. And this, and after this, they're going to be, I'm not saying they're going out of business, folks, but after this eventually runs its course, it'll be another 10 or 15 years. Maybe, if that, if it happens then, that somebody ever starts anything else again at this level. Anyway. So here comes Mike Tyson. Fucking hell. It didn't have the same effect on business as, it's Austin and Tyson. It's Austin and Tyson. For the TNT title and decorative hubcap, Cody with... What?
No, it was... I mean, I know now they're saying the title wasn't finished, but what an ugly...
What are they going to do? Remake it completely? That's like saying the Mona Lisa wasn't finished when she looked like a fucking middle-aged truck driver. They've started over again completely. If they started over again, maybe the belt will look nice. But anyway, for the TNT title, Cody with Arn Anderson against Lance Archer with Jake Snake Roberts. And I figured this is going to be the other match that I like. And then everything else is going to go downhill. But it started going downhill about 2/3 the way into this one. Cody fought from underneath the whole time. Lance Archer took over right away. Cody did everything right. He made Lance Archer seem like a fucking big badass. Lance was almost always in charge or shutting him back down. He kept it interesting. They fought in the arena, but Cody got choke slammed on the fucking concrete. At one point, Lance Archer pressed Cody in the ring and tossed him over the post to the floor like Lawler and LeDuc in 78. Only they ain't going to remember this 40 years later, because then they had another 20 minutes of match after that. And Lawler went to the hospital. But anyway, I digress. They caught Mike Tyson yawning one time in the middle of the fucking heat on camera. But Archer stayed on him. Whoever that big swole idiot is, they've got the boys and girls in the crowd. Somebody needs to fucking back her up a little bit. Because she was trying to be the fucking front row fan that gets in everybody's face. But she was in Lance Archer's face with her screaming at him with her fucking finger, etc. Yes, if she's not a fan, and he knows that. If it was a fan, fine. She's not a fan. She's a wrestler. He should have pie-faced her into fucking next week. She's burying a fucking giant heel, bowing up and knowing that he's probably not going to do anything. It's pay-per-view. They ain't going to get kicked off television, but a woman not scared of Lance Archer. I will critique Lance Archer again. He needs to stop making faces for the floor camera when he's actually doing shit to somebody. He's gouging Cody's eyes or choking him or whatever. He's making faces for the floor camera. anytime you've ever put both your hands around a motherfucker's neck and choked them, have you not been looking directly in their face when you did it?
No, usually I'm.
No, both your hands around the neck. No, I'm not talking about a rear naked choke. I'm talking about we're in a fight and I'm fucking choking you, you asshole, or you're having fun with your significant other, but you're looking in their fucking eyes, one or the other. Point is, Lance is walking around making a lot of faces for the floor camera. And anyway, they did the deal toward the end, the DDT Spinebuster trade, where fucking Cody hit a DDT to mock Jake, and then Archer hit a Spinebuster to mock Arn, which was fine. That's good. Cody did a big Cody cutter off the top rope and made a big comeback. And then Lance Archer stopped him and everything came to a halt. And I wrote, could they not have gone home from here? They had to go a little longer. And they, then, they had done the deal where Lance Archer did they didn't call it Old School by The Undertaker. They called it Shades of Don Jardine, which is also correct. But Lance did the rope walk early, holding on to Cody's hand, right? And rope walked and then came off and hit the moonsault, which, okay. Okay, right? That was fine. But then he takes Cody's hand again and rope walks from buckle to buckle and then stands there. He's got Cody's hand, but he's looking directly over the ring post while Arn Anderson walks up the stairs and he's looking at him and sweeps Lance Archer's feet out from us so he can crotch himself on the top turnbuckle. He was looking at him and he stayed there for Arn to do that. Was that not a buzzkill? Was it just me?
Now, by the way, why was Jake distracting the referee?
Well, he was trying to say, hey, referee, look, they're trying to do some shit behind your back. And of course the referee had but yeah, it just, so boy, the last 5 minutes, if they'd have just gone on. But anyway, Cody at that point barely hit a reverse superplex on Lance Archer, because I know Cody's a tall guy, but Lance is so big and tall. That's a fucking, it was a little hairy there on the turn. I don't know why they have to do reverse superplexes instead of just superplexes. Because somebody in a spot somewhere this night killed the fucking superplex when they did that stupid thing where you give a guy a superplex and then he hooks your fucking legs because the impact didn't bother him at all. Anyway, then here comes the second referee, stooges Arn off for doing what he did. He gets kicked out of ringside and Jake gets kicked out of ringside. And once they both get kicked out of ringside, then Lance Archer hits a big old German suplex and he starts waving for Jake to come out. And Jake does come out. They just kicked him out of ringside. And then why didn't fucking Arn come back? Arn didn't come back because it wasn't the spot. Jake comes out with a bag that allegedly has a snake in it, but it didn't really have a snake in it. But he had a bag, and then Tyson gets to block him off, right? So that's Tyson's spot. Literally 30 seconds. Arn couldn't have I know Arn, he doesn't move that quick on stairs anymore. He couldn't have got down the stairs from the gorilla position, and Jake's already back out after getting kicked out of ringside. Anyway, that's the spot where Tyson blocks him off. He did not hit Jake. Apparently, Jake told Tyson, I didn't sell Muhammad Ali in the Superdome, motherfucker. I'm not going to sell you either. I guess that's what he said. So then Lance Archer, while there's this distraction, Lance Archer grabs Cody, turns him toward the ropes that he wants him to go to, and by his hands on his shoulders, and does the head palm shoot off, and Cody went with it. Right then, I wanted to fucking shoot my television. And Cody comes off the ropes, and they do a fucking thing, flip, and Cody hits the crossroads 1, 2, 3. First 2/3 of it was great. It went too long after that, and the finish was not good because it didn't make sense. And Lance Archer, again, Lance, I remember you from TNA. We've had a number of wonderful conversations. I will hunt you down if you don't quit doing that fucking head palm shoot off, that phony bullshit that not only kills your opponent, but kills you. And every time you do it, instead of the people paying attention to what you're fucking doing, are sitting there looking at each other going, did you see that? That was fucking fake as shit. And not paying attention to what you're doing. All right. What'd you think?
Well, first I'll give a positive. I think that the AEW fans, if they were actually in a building watching this match, they probably would have gone crazy for it because, it's free pass Cody. Cody gets a free pass from everybody for his matches. And I don't even say that as a bad thing. The fans are invested in him, the AEW fans.
Well, also, and he builds his matches where there is drama and suspense and etc.
But he also has no idea. He also has no idea how to lay out a match. Every single match has just a ridiculous amount of outside interference and managers running around. And it's every match now.
Yes, but what I was saying was the people helps in that flavor of a match. But when there's no people, it exposes how overbooked a lot of this was because it just was too convoluted, went too long, too many moving parts. So I agree with what you said, but I didn't have time to say it first.
And I guess I just thought it would have been a different kind of match. I want to remind you, 3 weeks ago, Brandy Rhodes, DDT'd by Britt Baker, rolled in the ring, a snake is put on her, and dirty old Jake the Snake, a noted piss drinker, starts dry humping her. Since that time...
How do we know it was dry?
Well, since that time...
See? I mean, it could have been more heat. It could have been a wet hump.
Well, since that time, Cody has not said... Cody hasn't said shit. Arn Anderson and Jake had a bizarre segment that went nowhere. And then this match, which was just a match, and Cody beats him, and he celebrates the title, and that's it. I mean, it could have been a blood feud. It could have meant something.
It could have been
it did mean something. It meant Cody wanted to get the belt. He wanted to be a champion of the company, and he's now the first AEW TNT champion. Once again, not for me. I thought it was all right. However, if there was an audience there, it would have elevated it. It would have been elevated by an audience there because they're so into Cody's crap and they react so heavily to it that it would have lifted the whole matchup, I think.
I agree with you there that people would have helped it. I agree that also a little shorter would have helped it. Not as complicated at the end would have helped it, but also I just don't know. Just all of the things you said. When did the Horseman break Dusty's leg and we never heard from Dusty?
Right, exactly. Imagine if they did something to Dusty's wife. How would Dusty have reacted on TV if Ric Flair kissed Dusty's wife?
He'd have probably given him a bonus. No, I'm kidding.
He would have run out there with a baseball bat or something.
He would have driven his truck in the building and run him down. That's what he would have done.
Yes, he would have driven his truck in the building and run him down. He wouldn't have driven his truck after casually waiting there.
Yeah, he wouldn't have driven into a barricade.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know.
And by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier when I mentioned I felt bad for hurting Seth Rollins' feelings, but I forgot I was talking to one of the, not just modern wrestling fans, but a modern wrestler. And I guarantee you, if this was the territories in any territory in the country, if it was the exact same situation, the boys in the locker room with Seth would have been cutting the exact same promo I did. They would have been his best friends. They'd have been happy and they'd have bought the kid a birthday present, but they'd have been mercilessly cutting a promo on him. You idiot. You fucked your wife out of $1 million. But the whole thing has changed. Anyway, speaking of which, we come now to Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford. And this was the match, was it not? Is this the match they added because Britt Baker was incapacitated by Chris Statlander?
Yes, Britt Baker was originally.
And Penelope Ford, wasn't it? It was both of the.
No,
it was Statlander and Sheeta.
That's right.
Crippled Baker when she was teaming with Penelope Ford.
No, she was teaming with Nyla Rose.
Oh, she was. Well, that's right. Fuck it. Who gives a shit? Point is. It took a while to fast forward this match, but I got it done. And Chris Statlander won without hospitalizing Penelope Ford, so that's a positive. And they were booping some noses. That's what I saw. Who gives Outlaw Girl Wrestling on pay-per-view? I was running low on patience at this point. Did you have any comments on this match, or can we skip it?
No, I have no comments.
Okay, good.
Other than I think Penelope Ford has a lot of potential. I like Penelope Ford.
If Chris Statlander don't fucking cripple her too, I'm sure she'll be wonderful. Then Shawn Spears versus Dustin Rhodes. So this was a set piece. They shot an angle to have a match on pay-per-view where it became an angle. Shawn Spears enters in a suit, and he says Dustin isn't there. And then Dustin's music plays, but Dustin doesn't come out. And then we find out that Shawn Spears is ribbing us because he told him to play the music. But now he tells Ref Aubrey to count Dustin out, and he's going to win the match. And then the music starts playing again. And Shawn Spears like, I told you just play it once, you idiots. And then Brandy comes out. I knew it. They even made mention Brandy's not at ringside with Cody because it's too dangerous a place for his wife to be here with these people. So she had to get on the fucking show. They should all Elite Wrestling's logo should be modified where at the top right corner, Brandy Rhodes is peeking out of a window somehow, and Brandy, a little tiny writing, and Brandy. So she comes out the front, and Dustin comes from the back, which was good when they did it 2 matches earlier with fucking Havoc and Sabian and Penelope or Petunia or whatever her name is. But Dustin comes out, and they get in a brawl. And this was fucking actually fun and exciting. They kept it moving. Shawn Spears is taking some fucking heel bumps. He just doesn't have any heat. Dustin rips his clothes off. This is fucking little wrestling broke out here in the middle of all of this fucking foolishness, some pro wrestling. Shawn Spears was doing spots in his shorts and his socks. If this had been the gimmick match on a program of matches, it would have really stood out. It would have been fun. Right up until the point where the camera, and I was gonna sit through Shawn Spears not knowing that his ass was hanging out because I couldn't apply a double standard, and Flair's done that spot too. So I sat through that, but when the camera focused in on Spears' underwear and there was a picture of Tully ironed onto his crotch, that's when I gave up and I hit the fast forward button, but somehow Dustin hit a finish on him and won. But I didn't watch any of it because they can't even do serious goofiness. Their fucking brawling and bumping looked good enough, and everybody loves to see some heel get his suit ripped off. And they kept this moving, and it wasn't long. So, okay, I was working with them on it, and then they've got to make it even this stupid by just sticking Tully's face on fucking Spears' crotch. So I fast-forwarded it because they deserve no more of my time, and I'm disappointed in Dustin if he knew this was going to happen, that he didn't say, wait a fucking minute. Right before I beat this guy and win and get even with him for what he did for my brother and blah, 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 you're going to hoke it all up and make it fucking stupid. So there you go. What'd you think?
Well, it was nice to have Tully back on the program. After weeks of not being there and no mention of him, and Spears is doing his own news program now. I like Dustin Rhodes, but, this match, I think part of the issue is they've kind of established in AEW that Shawn Spears is a jerk-off who doesn't win matches. So I couldn't care too much, and I kind of figured Dustin was going to come out as soon as the music hit the second time. You knew what was going to happen. I didn't expect Brandy, but maybe that's my naivete. But, it was what it was. And I hate that expression, but there's no other expression to use here. It was what it was.
That is a good expression for AEW. What it is usually what it is.
Can you sue them for false advertising if nothing is actually elite?
That would have been a great transition if we hadn't already done the Stephen P. New spot.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, now I have to watch one of them. Another girls' match comes up, but it's Nyla Rose against Shida for the women's title. And all right, because I've had hopes for Nyla Rose, but of course, all of them have been dashed on the rocks of bad booking and incompetent fucking agenting. And whoever books and sets this goddamn women's division up ought to be sodomized with a fucking cactus, and every cactus needle should be dipped in curare poison before it goes into the anus. At the bell, they start doing spots with a kendo stick. And the referee, he was the one who looks like a reanimated corpse, did nothing. And then we later found out here in a minute from the announcers, and it may have been, I was zipping through the entrances also, because this fucking thing clocked in at almost 4 hours as it was. But this is no DQ also. No time limit, no DQ. It's just, was there a match that there was a DQ rule in effect on this goddamn stinker of a fucking program? Now the girls are no DQ. They went to the floor and the referee went with them, and they fought outside for minutes. I was literally timing it on my minutes. And the referee just stared at him because it's no DQ. And Nyla Rose threw Sheeta through the fucking poker table and hit her with a chair. Chairs, tables, barricades in a fucking girls match. What are the fucking guys supposed to do? Start pulling out power drills? This is fucking ridiculous. You have girls. At one, you've already buried. Nyla Rose could have been a goddamn beast like Awesome Kong was in her TNA run. Regardless if they didn't want to fucking capitalize on the built-in controversy of the transgender athlete and the natural hormonal and or anatomical fucking advantage, and is it fair, blah, blah, blah. She's 200 and something fucking pounds. She's 3 times the size of every other twat in this fucking division, and she takes more bumps and gets beat up and beat more than any of them. She has been defeated by a fucking 90-pound schoolgirl. She's been beaten up and sold for everybody on the fucking roster. But now they're using, in a no DQ match, they're using chairs and tables and barricades and taking bumps through tables onto concrete floors. If it doesn't hurt a girl, whether it's a 200 and something pound girl or Hikaru Shida, who is 135 probably max, why should a 275 pound man ever sell it? Also, tables and furniture and bullshit like that should be used in angles with the men, because those are the ones that are going to sell tickets and draw money. But when everybody, the girls, the referees, the managers, and the midgets are all using tables and chairs and bullshit, then you have a program where everybody just does tables and chairs and bullshit and nothing means anything. Also, then they fought through the whole arena with the gimmicks, having a typical bullshit indie garbage match, which means that when the fucking main event does it, it means less. But nothing means anything in this environment anyway. And the top girls in the business can have a great athletic contest. Charlotte and Rhea Ripley was the best thing on WrestleMania in an empty arena, because they had a contest, not a fucking stunt show fight that's obviously stupid when you see women doing it. It's stupid when you see the men doing it for the most part. It's even stupider and more implausible when you see the women doing it. And neither one of these women is Charlotte or Rhea Ripley. Girls having garbage matches is worse than men doing it, and it just makes all of that even more meaningless if it doesn't even hurt the girls. And if the girls get hurt, then you have sent them out there to do a fucking stupid garbage match that they've got no business doing, and then they get hurt. And finally, after all the tables and chairs and garbage and bullshit, Sheeta rolled in the ring and beat Nyla Rose with a knee lift. 1, 2, 3. Did I mention that Nyla Rose has been beaten by every girl a third of her size on the roster? She should just go home at this point and take up collecting stamps. The only thing worse than the talent choices in this women's division is the idiot, whether he's a male or a female, I think he's a little bit of both, booking it. Fucking mental midget. Did you watch this thing?
I missed part of it because that was my bathroom break match, and I only saw the last few minutes. I thought the last few minutes were all right. Congratulations, Hikaru Shida.
righty then.
I'm sure she had a wonderful celebration that night with Kenny Omega.
She loves his Sega.
Don't they all?
Good God. All right, here next up for the other title. Not the TNT title, but the world title. This 6-month-old promotion with a roster of 14 people and everybody's a champion. And there are no DQ matches. Entering the arena, the black hole of charisma. Not only does he have no charisma, but he sucks in the charisma surrounding him at an incomparable rate. Brody Lee. The gravitational pull of his anti-charisma is strong in this one, Brian. It really is. And he gets in the ring with a bunch of guys in red shirts that said S.A.F.E. on it. Was that ever explained what that is?
I don't think so. I thought they were maybe just event security. I don't know.
Well, it said safe, and I've never heard of that brand, and it looked like a bunch of outlaw dimwit wrestlers dressed up to stand there. But I did fast forward through Moxley strolling in from the parking lot because that's way old. There's not even any fans he can come to. The man of the people. He's just the man of the parking lot. He's the voice of the homeless. So he comes in. I fast forwarded that part. Within seconds, they immediately were on the floor in this match. Brody Lee's new gear looks like a high school cheerleading squad captain. Brody Lee did a dive. I said they were out on the floor within seconds, suplexing each other on the concrete, and then immediately afterwards, Brody Lee got back in and did a dive. Why don't the referees and ring announcers dive, too, to make sure that we know that everybody can do this and nobody gets hurt by it, even when people actually really do get hurt by it? They got back out on the floor after they did their dive spot. I don't know why they set the ring up. They could really cut the budget by cutting that ring crew out. Brody Lee continues to work like a man in a hypnotic trance or possibly a sleepwalker. He sleepwalks like Art Carney in that classic episode of The Honeymooners when he was having bad dreams because he was looking for his long-lost childhood dog. Only Art Carney had emotion. Let's see then. Moxley spent forever because these guys are going to have a fucking indie garbage match regardless of what happens, because apparently that's Moxley's background. And I wrote, how did both these guys spend as much time as they did in the WWE and not learn anything about how to put a match together except what they did on the fucking outlaw shows that they couldn't let be done in the WWE because it was fucking stupid. They go right back to having garbage fucking outlaw indie matches and learned nothing. Moxley spent forever putting the ring steps in a certain place, but then by the time he did that, Brody Lee caught him and was going to powerbomb him. But of course, Moxley foiled it and backdropped Brody Lee off the steps through a table. They couldn't get this. And it was another one of those deals where, well, who's going to go first? Am I going to stand up or are you going to push off? And if you go back and watch it, and there's the little hand fucking Iggy's, like, you go, no, you go, no, you go. And finally, Moxley, I think, just stood up and herniated himself, taking this big schlub over and fucking backdropping him through the fucking table to the floor. I swear to God, he backdrops him off the ring steps through a table to the concrete floor, grabs Brody Lee, throws him in the ring, and by the time he gets back in the ring, Brody Lee is on offense again. That was what I wrote down the note about how did they fucking spend that much time in the WWE and not learn any fucking thing. And I'm sorry, but regardless of what everybody thinks about the WWE product these days, and boy, it does suck a large donkey penis. They teach guys how to make shit make sense if they have the capacity to learn. It may not, the angles may not make any sense, but they actually like when they inadvertently have a wrestling match for that shit to make sense. And they have some qualified agents. Anyway, they went back to the floor and they started tearing up the set. This is every indie match I've ever seen. Fast forward. I fast forwarded. They were on the stage, awkwardly setting up a stunt. Moxley then does his double arm DDT to Brody Lee through the ramp. Through the gimmicked ramp. It was obviously gimmicked, but still through the wooden ramp, and they both disappear, and everybody runs out, and they've gone in this fucking hole. He's DDT'd him to hell. And I said, if this is not the finish, I'm done with this match. That's what I wrote. And I'll be a son of a bitch if both of them didn't come back out. Brody Lee bleeding. He got juice while he was under there. And I fast forwarded. I don't know what happened from there because what the fuck? I couldn't take any more. Was that the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen?
No, that was coming up on the program.
Well, all right, but I mean, so far.
No, you're forgetting what show we're watching here.
Yeah, but all right, I phrased it wrong. What the fuck? Was this a goddamn goofy fucking indie match or what?
I've said it several times, and, you know, it's weird. It's kind of getting reinforced each time. Moxley has a good character. I hate to use that word, but hey, we're talking about AEW. I'm going to use the word character here.
Yeah.
It's entertainment. He does a pretty good promo, and his matches just suck to me. He just doesn't know how to lay out a match. There always has to be this.
It's like he never got out of the indies. He does all that bullshit that's been done and overdone, going all the way back to ECW and the hardcore horse shit that just for the lowest common denominator that mental cases like to watch. And nobody else wants to fucking see because it's stupid and don't make any sense. He's a big budget outlaw fucking wrestler. And I'd never seen his shit before until everybody was making over him. And then he comes here and I start watching this. I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, who did win?
Jon Moxley has won, and hopefully that's the end of the Dark Order. We can only hope.
The Dork Order. You keep mispronouncing that.
Well, the main dorks haven't been there in a while, so I didn't know what was going on.
Well, hopefully they'll keep the Canadian border closed forever if it means we don't have to fucking look at Pizzeria Uno again. Anyway. All right, the final match of the evening. What'd they call it? The Stadium Stampede or what? What was the name of the match?
I think that was it. I think.
It's the Inner Circle. It's Jericho and his minions, Ortiz, Santana, Sammy Guevara, Jake Hager against the executive vice presidents, the Road Warrior Buck, Balding Buck, Kenny Olivier, Hangman Page, and whichever personality Matt Hardy is occupying at this point in time, right? And I want to say one thing at the beginning of this. You made me promise two things. You made me promise that I wouldn't fast forward the first match or the last match. And that, I think, is why I hate you the most today, right now, because I couldn't fast forward this thing because I'd be breaking my goddamn promise to a friend. So I sat and I didn't watch it closely. And I took my new toe knife out and tried to dig some fucking crud out from under my toenails at one point, but I didn't fast forward it. But instead of Stadium Stampede, they should have called it Football Field Fuckery. That's what happens when you get 10 jack-offs that just want to have a giggle with their friends and go out and find a football field and play with each other and fucking goof off, and some idiot surreptitiously videotapes it and broadcasts it to the world. A football field fuckery, sort of like Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies. Saturday Night Live was getting ideas off of this. And you know what? Now that I've said that, these fucking twats are going to think that's a good thing. At least the fucking Olivier and the fucking young fucks, they're going to, that's a compliment. It's not. I promise you it's not. You couldn't imagine Kenny Olivier and Road Warrior and Balding Buck, the complete disdain I hold for you, personally and professionally. All right, so they're on the field. They've got pyro. They've got cheerleaders. They've got the football introductions. The Inner Circle's even wearing football outfits. The babyface team had some kind of, instead of doing everybody's entrance, they just did, the same music, and they played some kind of fucking douchebag entrance music. I don't know what it was, but it sounded like some kind of fucking 80s porn soundtrack. And then they just started fighting. They just started fighting around the fucking football field. There was a ring set up. They were in it for, well, as a matter of fact, that's in the middle of all this foolishness at the start. Jericho and Balding Buck were in the ring doing a drop-down leapfrog spot. And they pretty much, otherwise than that, nobody used the fucking ring. Adam Page comes out late. He didn't come out with the rest of the team. He comes out riding a horse and chasing Sammy Guevara out of the fucking stadium. If one thing on this show got over with me in the course of the night, it was Sammy Guevara's cardio. Otherwise, the whole thing was fucking hot garbage. It stinks like a man eating Fremunda cheese in a septic tank of a slaughterhouse. So they did a bunch of indie spots like they do in the ring in their backyard briefly at the start of this thing, and then they just all left it. I noticed again, the world's greatest wrestling artist, Kenny Olivier, is so fucking awkward and herky-jerky when he's not doing his dance routines. When he's not doing his fucking made-up wrestling moves and his snapdragon suplexes and his fucking petunia fucking double stomps or whatever. When he's trying to fight or he's just trying to move somebody from one place to the next because he's never been properly trained and he's not a natural worker to begin with, he's fucking awkward and herky-jerky. And shit like this brings that out. Then they had the segment where a bunch of people dove off of shit onto groups of people who were standing there specifically to catch them. Road Warrior Buck, Matt, who hurt himself diving off the goddamn stands on TV the other night, then backflipped off the goalpost onto some people that were standing there waiting for no reason other than to catch him. And then they all went up in the stands. Adam Page now is in the bowels of the building, so now they're trying to imitate the Money in a Bank match by having different fucking scenes and different locations in this thing. I almost wanted to apologize to Vince Russo for saying that he produced the worst wrestling that I've ever seen or heard of after seeing this fucking thing. Because, it was the worst aspects of Money in the Bank without the WWE production talent or budget. Page is in the bowels of the building, still riding the horse, looking for fucking Sammy Guevara. But he's just trotting. He's not like running. He's just walking. Ambling or whatever. And he sees a sign for the bar, so he gets off the horse and tells the horse to stay and goes to the bar in the middle of this fight. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Santana and Ortiz are beating up Olivier, and they powerbombed him through a barricade. And then Hardy saves him with Santana and Ortiz's slapjack, which must have a tennis ball in it because they repeatedly use it and nobody ever fucking suffers any ill effects from it. Then suddenly they came upon a swimming pool. They have a swimming pool at a football field? Why is this?
Well, a lot of stadiums now, because they want to get people with some money to come in and have a good time. You know, in Arizona, the Diamondbacks, their stadium, they have a swimming pool in the outfield. It's just, another thing.
What?
Yeah.
Who's going to go to swimming at a fucking football game?
There are some total douchebags who go to these sporting events and don't give a shit about the game. It's a social gathering for them.
Well, these two particular douchebags tried to drown Matt Hardy in a swimming pool. And besides, the fucking timing of attempting to drown a wrestler, which I am not even going to go into because other people can go into that and it won't sound like Cornette just hates everything. And they should be going into that. But what I was more offended by is that every time they dunk Matt Hardy in a swimming pool, he comes up as a different person dressed differently. And I'm supposed to fucking buy that. And at this point, and the announcers are calling it. And here is what I wrote. I promised Brian Last I would not fast forward this, So I didn't. However, I will never watch this fucking shit again. Fuck all you people. I'm ashamed of Matt Hardy. I'm ashamed of Tony Schiavone. I'm ashamed of Jim Ross for not walking out on this. I'm ashamed of everybody involved in it. And it's the last time I'll be watching this fucking horse shit. And Tony Khan can take his sports-based presentation and shove it up his fucking ass. David Schultz should be there to personally fucking slap the fucking teetotal shit out of every motherfucker that lowered himself to be involved in this. And it wasn't over. So then Matt Hardy took Pampiro Firpo Jr. to the big fucking Liberty Bell. There's a bell there, I don't know why. And he rang the bell on the guy's head, and the guy went into convulsions, so then he duct taped him into a wheelchair. And then threw Santana into the ice machine. Did they ever explain how Santana got out of the ice machine? I never saw a shot of him getting out of the ice machine.
I don't recall a explanation.
So then, meanwhile, Jake Hager, one of the other blue chip players that they could have made something out of until they made him a goofy, phony, fake fighter and one of the boys that just stands around with a stupid look on his face all the time and forever gets goddamn embarrassed. Hager goes looking for Paige and sees the horse and sees the sign for the bar. So he goes to the bar, they sit down, they have a fucking drink with each other, and then suddenly get in a big schmoz. And Paige does a backflip off of a bar and a crossbody off a pool table. And that's where I wrote, these guys are taking big chances of getting hurt just to make the wrestling business look stupid and phony and fucking give a fucking billionaire's little fucking spoiled kid a giggle. So then Olivier shows up and he and Paige break 5 liquor bottles over Jake Hager's head. And he never goes down. And they were fake bottles. And then Olivier gives Jake Hager his little fucking sissy leaping fucking knee, and he didn't go down. So then Olivier bends over, and Paige does the fucking vault over him and gives Hager the buckshot lariat over the bar. Then, when the dangerous MMA fighter has been left behind the bar like a sack of shit, Paige and Olivier have a drink with each other. However, Paige has a shot and Olivier has a glass of milk to make sure that we know that Kenny Olivier is the biggest nerd fucking pussy on the face of the planet Earth. In real life as well as on his television program where he's supposed to be a fucking superstar. Then they did a spot where Sammy Guevara and Road Warrior Buck did endless gymnastics on the fucking football field. And when they got to the end of it, the referee threw a flag on Road Warrior Buck for excessive celebration, and he super kicked the referee just to make sure we've gone 3 minutes or so. Somebody might be trying to take this seriously again. Let's make sure they don't. Jericho's over yelling at Balding Buck on a megaphone, so Balding Buck pelted him with footballs. Jericho hit his finish, Judas elbow, on the mascot of the football team. And then Chris Jericho, former WWE champion, biggest star in this company, used a baseball bat on Balding Buck and got a 2 count. So Chris Jericho can't beat a fucking guy that looks like a junior high school fucking gymnast with a baseball bat. But then he challenged the referee's call, and is this a thing they do in football now? That he and the referee, Aubrey, who now has completely no credibility whatsoever and is just as meaningless as the rest of them, they went into a tent to talk about it? This is what they do in football now?
I don't really watch football much.
I don't
tell you. Baseball's where it's at.
Well, I don't want to watch anything related to anything that happens on a football field. If there's porn shot on a football field, I don't want to see fucking on a football field anymore. I don't want to see anything that takes place on a football field after this fucking match. So then Balding Buck went all the way to the top of the stadium and ran down the stairs for no reason, like he's getting up a big head of steam, but he's running down stadium stairs. He can't get out of control. He can't go full speed. And then when he gets to the bottom of the stairs, he stops and jumps up on the rail and then jumped off and splashed Jericho through a table. So the running was just for nothing because he's an idiot. And then as Jericho is laying there, Adam Page ran the line marker over him, straight up the middle of him from his crotch over his face. Chris, it's been nice knowing you, but fuck you too. What the fuck? Can you not exercise any goddamn control over these fucking idiots, or do you just not care? Are you just taking this fucking goof's money and you want to be a rock star so you don't care about the wrestling business anymore? It's gone. There's no reason to fucking try anymore. Is that what it is?
He wants to fit in with them. That's what it is.
Well, I'm sick of everybody wanting to fit in, because you know what you do when you fit in? You become one of the fucking crowd. Nobody gives a shit about you. But I never want to see any of these people ever again, personally or professionally. This reminds me of when I fucking said good things about Mance Warner in MLW. Yeah, he could talk, and he had a different kind of gimmick, and he stood out. And then I see him on the internet having a match with the Invisible Man. And I went up to him at the Charlotte Fan Fest. I said, "Oh, the Invisible Man returns." I said, "What the fuck are you doing?" Well, I said, "No, you have talent. You didn't need to do that. Now I cannot defend you. I cannot say anything good about you ever again. Not that you care, maybe. I don't care whether you care. But still, I told him he's a fucking moron for doing that. They're all fucking morons for doing this. I'm disappointed in all of them. I don't want to see him personally again because I'd have to tell him. I don't want to see him professionally again because I don't want to see anybody involved in this ever again." And then Guevara was laying on the sprinklers when they came on, so that woke him up. And they chase him in a golf cart into the stands. And finally, Kenny Olivier gave Sammy Guevara his one-winged fairy move. Off the stands, it's the one-winged Tinkerbell, folks. Off the stands onto what appeared to me, unless I'm missing something again, Brian, what appeared to me to be an airbag crash pad that they didn't even try to disguise that they landed on, and the announcers had to go, "Oh my God, look at the height." Yeah, and they landed in fucking an airbag. Was that what I was looking at?
Yes, they didn't try to hide it.
And 1, 2, 3. Fuck all of you. Fuck you if you've been my friend. Fuck you if you've been my enemy. There are some things that you have to take a stand on and that are more important than goddamn taking a paycheck. That anybody involved in this did not walk out. I'm talking about the announcers. I'm talking about the referees. I'm talking about the participants. I'm talking about the camera crew. For fuck's sake, why didn't one of the fucking technical people in the truck say, "We're not going to fucking shoot this for all of y'all's sake"? If this is what wrestling is now, it needs to die. Leave it alone and let it go. If you can't bring it back and you're just going to fucking piss on the fucking rotting corpse, let it go. Find something else to do with your fucking lives, like I have, because I'm too embarrassed to be involved with these people or this industry because of shit like this. I just slapped my own self in the face. And I did it again.
You don't have to do that, Jim.
I'm going to beat my own self up. Fucking assholes. So, you can't... I'm not going to tear this. I'm going to set fire to it. Can you hear flames over the microphone?
We can't. Just hold on to that. Maybe we can find something productive to do with your notes.
No, I'm setting fire to this shit. I'm set right here in the goddamn floor of the office.
No, don't do it in your office.
Okay, where is I need some...
There's so much stuff in there we can't have burned. Don't do it there.
I'm going to burn it.
Will you stop?
I'm rubbing 2 fucking Sharpies together on this thing.
That's not going to do it. I don't think that's going to do it.
All right. You know what you need, don't you? Well, do you have any final thoughts about the stadium extravaganza?
Well, you certainly captured a lot of thoughts in your review. I'll say that I thought it was one of the biggest pieces of garbage I've ever seen on a professional wrestling broadcast. Although, again, this is sports entertainment, not professional wrestling. This is not sports-based wrestling.
This isn't sports entertainment because there would have to be sports and there would have to be entertainment.
You know what? This is sports entertainment the same way Vince does it. These guys, it's another version of Vince McMahon's style of wrestling. And I think you didn't hit the commentators as hard as I would have hit them because they're just laughing.
What, saying fuck y'all, you should have walked out is not hitting them hard enough?
The whole show, just they're shucking it up and having a great time, laughing about things with each other. Jim Ross is completely checked out.
Well, why wouldn't you? And, you know, Tony was away from the business for 20 years. So I was figuring I was giving him a pass when he would laugh and go, wow, this is great, because I was thinking, well, he actually thinks this is great because he doesn't know what's changed or what's gone on. And he thinks now this is acceptable because he was away for a while. But nobody that was ever a wrestling fan or cared about the business could think any of this was acceptable. And he's still going, wow, it's great. So he's just taking the fucking check. And let's face it, you know Jim Ross knows. I haven't talked to him after this, probably won't talk to him for a while after this. But he knows this is garbage.
Well, he's not going to say anything until after he stops getting paid by Tony Khan. We know how this works.
Well, you know what? And there's two ways to look at this. He's signed to do a job, so he's going to do the fucking job, and he's not going to fucking come out and just bury the shit on the air. There's that. That's being professional. Or there's being professional enough to go, you know what? I'm not going to ruin my goddamn legacy and my standing as the greatest announcer of the modern era by being remembered for calling this fucking horse drivel. And he should go home and fucking apply his many talents to doing his own thing instead of fucking letting these people drag him into the goddamn cesspool. Fuck.
You know, so much of the reaction on social media that I saw was extremely positive. People loving this match, people saying that it was nice to be able to have some fun and just laugh. And I think there's the big divide, is that there are a lot of fans who just want to get into the personalities of the wrestlers and then see them do wacky things in a match or in a spectacle like this.
That's what we've got left because all the other ones are gone. They've run them off with all the wacky shit.
You know, no one ever just turns away from wrestling. I truly believe, you know, so many of the listeners I have on 605, so many of the Cornette listeners are people who don't watch wrestling anymore, but they still want to hear wrestling talk. They still want to follow the business. They just don't want to watch the business.
Well, and they watch YouTube, and they buy the old DVDs, and they watch the good stuff. And, you know, why couldn't they give them some more of the good stuff that they have to pay more money for that's brand new that they haven't seen? Because they can't, because you have people like this that think that this is what people want to fucking see and are blinded by the fact there's a fucking audience for anything, as we've mentioned. People will watch tapes of people's balls being nailed to a step stool. But there were so many millions more when we were serious about this shit and everybody didn't know what the fuck was going on or know how or whatever, and we acted like we cared. Now nobody acts like they care. They just jack off, and it's become a goddamn comedy show to be watched like America's Funniest Videos or Tosh.0. Oh, look, they're going to do something else stupid. Fuck.
Like I said earlier, AEW's numbers are not that much greater than where ours are right now. There's a big audience that doesn't want this. There's a big audience that wants something different. There are people who watch that show just to hear you tear it down.
Are you trying? Well, that's why, and that's the only reason I'm doing this. Believe me, and this will be the last time I do this fucking thing. After this, I don't want to ever see any of these people again. But I only did it because everybody wants me to fucking do it because I speak for them and how insulted they are and how fucking offended they are as wrestling fans by this shit. But for fuck's sake, just have some pride, people. Just turn around and walk away rather than being remembered like this. I'm not talking about the Bucks and Olivier and those fucks. That's the only way they'll ever be known. I'm talking about the people who have actually had success in wrestling and are ruining their fucking legacies with this goddamn being a part of this.
But let me correct you. The Bucks and Omega have had success in wrestling. A success with their style of entertainment like this. The problem is guys like Jericho want to do that because they want to fit in with a younger audience, then try to go the other way, which is, let me teach you guys some of the things you're not doing. Again, these are the guys that reject any older voice that tells them anything. They think they're the only ones who know anything. They're going to reject any principles the industry ever had and just do their own thing and lots of high spots and stand around and catch me and all this shit. The problem is you have a lot of people that are saying, hey, let's try to fit in with them and their crowd, as opposed to let's try to elevate things. Let's try to build a crowd that's bigger than this. And I thought this whole event was embarrassing.
Just real quick, by the way, it's not a question of wanting to fit in with the younger people. It's wanting to fit in with the stupid people. Age has nothing to do. I talk to 20-something-year-old people or hear from 20-something-year-old people on Twitter, on emails all the time and say, this is fucking stupid. Why can't they be serious?
Well, when I said younger people, I'm specifically saying someone, let's say, who's in their mid-40s, early 50s, who sees something happening with younger people in the business, like the Bucks and Omega, and think, you know what, I want to find a way to get with that. I think that's what's happening right now. I thought this was an embarrassment. I thought the whole event was bad. I heard people said it was one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time, and there's the divide. There's the fucking divide. There are people who think this is okay. There are people who, if this exact spectacle had been on a WWE show, would have shit on it. But for lack of a better term, and excuse me, pardon the pun, whatever you want to say here, there's a cult of personality around the Young Bucks and Omega and AEW so that they have a free pass for anything they do. But if the same thing was done by WWE or Vince McMahon, it would be shit on, rightfully so. You know, I killed Money in the Bank. I kill this. Awful. I think Tony Khan, you know, one of the big problems at AEW is there's no leadership. You have a guy that wants to drink with the wrestlers and hang out with the wrestlers. He may not be as pathetic as Gordon Scazzari ended up being. He may not be completely clueless like Dixie Carter was. But it's the same.
He may not end up with coke and hookers like Herb Abrams did.
No.
But it's the same thing.
And he has unlimited capital, but he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know any better. I don't want to hear any more that, oh, he loves Mid-South Wrestling, or, oh, he used to collect Memphis wrestling tapes.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
He doesn't know any better.
So after this whole thing, you know what? I had such a throbbing, massive headache. I decided to take some of my Omax Cryo-Freeze CBD pain relief roll-on and rub it all over my fucking head. And it did make my head feel better. I still couldn't forget the anguished memories of this horrible affliction that I just watched, but my head did feel better. And actually, my whole body feels better whenever I use this stuff. And we've been raving about it on the program forever and ever, and that's because it works. My mother-in-law with the hip and knee replacement, Stacy with her aches and pains, me with my bad hip, bad knees, and bad shoulder. Brian, since you had that horrible nasal dislocation years ago and got your nose knocked out of joint, you've had pain in your nasal passages, and you rub this shit on, and boy, it works there too. Anybody from an athlete to Grandma Moses can benefit from this immediate pain relief. It's a roll-on, like a roll-on deodorant, and you put this stuff right on you, and almost instantly, the muscle and nagging joint pain feels better. It reduces the inflammation. It improves the muscle and joint flexibility, and the relief lasts up to 8 hours. It's longer than over-the-counter stuff, and it doesn't stink as bad as that icy hot stuff, too. No messy creams and greasiness. Just roll over wherever the pain comes and ice it out. Omax Cryo-Freeze, and because they're a friend of the program and so are you can go to omaxhealth.com. That's OMAX health.com and enter the code DRIVE to get 20% off the Cryo-Freeze and site-wide. 20% off omaxhealth.com. Enter the code DRIVE. They've got all kinds of good stuff, not only the pain relief roll-on, but the sport cream and a variety of things, including, believe it or not, vitamins and all kinds of stuff that can make you feel better. So anyway, Omax. Oh, boy, it's Omax.
I had to use it this morning. I was running around with the kids yesterday, and I'm feeling it.
You're feeling it? You were feeling running around with the kids, eh?
I was running around.
Did you have your non-windowed panel van when you were out with the kids?
No.
Looking like you were shooting Always Sunny on location?
I was in the backyard playing wiffle ball with the kids, and one of the kids, the baby, decided she wanted to do laps around the house, and someone had to stay with her to make sure a bear didn't get her, and that was me.
You got bears up there?
We have a lot of bears, man. Every day on the Ring app, it's someone putting up a video of a bear, and sometimes it's one bear, sometimes it's a big mama bear with a couple of cubs, but there are a lot of bears up here. Yeah.
In the wilds of New Jersey.
It's getting wilder by the day.
It's getting bare.
We've really run long today, so let's get a few questions in, but I guess on this topic, because we have gotten questions, we're getting more and more questions each and every week to the point where it's hard to even keep track of how many are coming in.
And especially so many of them coming from Charlie from Starkville.
So many coming from Starkville. In terms of this week's experience, what are we doing? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you just swore off AEW. Should we save some questions for the experience as well?
Yes, we should. I can't fucking look at these people again. I'm too disgusted. Not only, even if they ain't going to draw any more money than they are right now because of the pandemic, and they can't have ticket sales, they can't have fans in the building, just the overall complete disrespect of the wrestling business, just the fact that they're jacking off and they don't care, the insult to anybody who they were allowed in this business, and then they do this on national television because they got a money mark that don't give a shit and don't know any better, and they don't care. Fuck all of them. I don't want to see them. I don't know what would make me want to see this fucking program anymore. The reanimation of goddamn Luthez. But anyway, so we'll take a couple of questions. We'll play a fucking song, and I'm about done with this anyway because I'm pissed off now.
All right, well, to everyone who sent in questions, we'll try to get more on the experience. I don't know what the experience is going to be. We'll figure that out. I will say, though, I do like the idea of...
more Undertaker.
I do like the idea of the Young Bucks versus maybe hologram Billy Robinson and Carl Gotch. I'd watch that.
I would watch that. Twice.
Reanimated Luthez. Zombie Luthez.
Zombie
coming to
Thez.
AEW.
Yeah.
You know what? I may watch that, too. I have to be here on this.
Instead of brains, he'd be saying... wrist locks.
No, he'd be saying like everyone else, where's my check?
Well, that's
check.
Check. 10%. The only zombie ever that wanted 10% of the fucking gate to appear. Anyway.
Well, let's get a few questions in before we wrap things up, Jim. This first one was sent in the CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi.
God damn it. It's like you're AEW and you're just doing this to fuck with me personally.
What are your thoughts on AEW unveiling a new line of footwear featuring Jon Moxley, Orange Cassidy, and the Jurassic Express?
If they'll take all them shoes and ball them all up together and shove them up Tony Khan's ass, I'll buy 15 pair. How's that? Next question.
Our next question. Hold on, let me get it. That was a quick answer. I guess it'll be better than Ruse. Shoes for your feet, pockets for your stuff.
Oh, I was there. Flair was so fucking hot. And Luger didn't like it either. They were in St. Louis at the Kiel Auditorium. Imagine this. It wasn't what it once was in the days of Sam Muchnick, but it was still the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis. And because that was where Herd was from, and the fucking either the home base or they had the Ruse people there, they had Flair and Luger have their match for the NWA World title wearing Ruse. And you know how Flair is about his fucking about his gimmick and his fucking outfit and his fucking boots and everything's clean and the robes and the stuff. And he's out there looking like a fucking backyard wrestler, him and Luger wearing fucking tennis shoes, and was afraid he was going to break his fucking ankle, whatever. Oh, he was hot.
Our next question, Jim, sent in the CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Christian. My name is Christian. I'm from...
Well, sounds like a good name for you there.
Is it Staunton, Virginia? Do you know this town?
Stanton, Virginia.
Stanton, Virginia. My dad and I are big fans of the Drive-Thru, and I wanted to throw this your way. A friend of mine is a member of a Facebook group of people who discuss Marvin Ward and the money he owes all of them. Marvin Ward is the man that screwed The Undertaker and Kane out of money and wanted you to come to Waynesboro, Virginia last year.
Oh, yes.
Only to not follow up with you. My friend sent me screenshots where Marvin is apparently coming back under a new alias, Austin Douglas Ward.
Oh, no.
This, however, is not all because he sent another screenshot saying Marvin is trying to get the rights to Smoky Mountain Wrestling and start running shows again. Your thoughts? And let me click on this. He sent 2 links. This is from one of the pages. Just found out he legally changed his name to Austin Douglas Ward. Just found out from a reliable source that during the whole Kane Undertaker debacle that Marvin purchased him a new car and house. I don't know who him would be.
No, himself.
Oh, himself. I was also told he was going to try and get the rights to Smoky Mountain Wrestling and start running shows again. So,
well, good luck to him with that, because he'll be dealing with Vince's legal department. But no, Marvin Ward's this fucking con man that I've known him for 25 years. We actually first ran across him. He was supposed to promote Smoky Mountain Wrestling events in Waynesboro and maybe in Stanton, but 2 towns up there on a weekend. He had been bugging us. It's his hometown. He wanted to run shows, everything. We booked him with 2 cards. And then he had run a show the month before, and he brought in Abdullah the Butcher, and he lost too much money, and his father wouldn't let him have any more money to run shows, so he canceled on us. And we had to pay the fucking guys because we had booked them, and there was no way to redo it at the time. So anyway, that was in 1994. He was an idiot then. Then he came back. For a while, he was running shows up there that would sell out these big 1,500-seat, 2,000-seat high school gyms because basketball's big up there. But he had great local promotion because he was from there and he knew everybody and et cetera, et cetera. But then he'd always do something where he'd overreach himself, do something foolish, owe a bunch of people money, and have to go away for long periods of time. And I can't recite it chapter and verse because it's been incessant. He'll resurface somewhere. He'll run a couple of shows that fucking work out. Then he'll try to run a big one, take a bunch of fucking money, or fuck up at one point, people were looking for him because he had promised people they were going to China. And I either took China's money or somebody that was a middleman and disappeared. He's the one that did that fucking ridiculous pay-per-view from Waynesboro, Virginia, AWE, Awesome Wrestling Entertainment, that Kevin Nash and Ricky Morton supposedly had a shoot fight on, supposedly. It never ends with this fucking guy. And he had booked me. I told the story on the show here, but I'll tell it briefly. I was at a comic book convention here in Louisville about 1.5 years ago, setting up my booth, and I see Marvin and some of his guys, right? And somebody told me, yeah, Marvin's booked The Undertaker to come and do an appearance in Waynesboro. He's giving him $50,000. And I said, well, hell, tell him I'll come to Waynesboro for $5,000 as a joke, right? Here comes Marvin Ward. Will you come? Will you come? I said, for $5,000? Yeah, I'll come. So he books me on another show that he's going to have in Waynesboro for $5,000 with the Rock and Roll Express. I said, okay, I'll believe this when I see it. And sure enough, wouldn't you know who won the pony? He sold a bunch of tickets to see Undertaker and Kane, but not enough to cover the expense, allegedly. Canceled that show. Called me and told me that he was still going to run the other show that I was on until he got a letter from the fire department there in Waynesboro saying that because of the renovations going on to the gym, they couldn't have any wrestling shows until the fire department said okay, and then nobody ever heard from him again. And people still trying to get their money back off that Undertaker and Kane thing, including Kane, who he gave a bad check to. So if he's changed his name, the problem is he keeps forgetting to change the Ward part, because the Ward part is the part that's mud in that part of the country and in the wrestling business, because everybody now knows he's a goof and an idiot and a crook. But he's always been an idiot all his life. He's a country bumpkin. He reminds me, he's like the Virginia version of fucking Ernest T. Bass down there in Knoxville. But he was a wrestler for a while.
Doug Gibson.
Doug Gibson. So that's what the name he was using when we had him book those shows in Smoky Mountain. And he came down to do promos for him. And we clued Robert Gibson in, and he comes out because Doug's a babyface and starts going, yeah, that's right. And he starts cutting his promo. Doug Gibson wrestling somebody in fucking Waynesboro.
Anderson.
Roger Anderson. There you go. And then you've seen this, you asshole. Then he walks off, and then Robert Gibson walks in and says, hey, who's that asshole calling himself Gibson? He ain't related to me. It was funny you had to be there. Anyway, yes, he needs to change the Ward part. He could keep Marvin or Doug or Rastus or Festus or Cletus or Kefauver or whatever. He just needs to change the Ward part.
The last time we heard about him, I believe, was that AEW show that Steven sat in the front row. It turned out that Marvin Ward was like 2 seats over from him. And people spotted him there in the front row.
And probably started asking him for money on the spot.
You know, when I was 14, the first time I went to Fan Week, the last night in Morristown, where Rob Moore booked that gave me the idea for that King of the Mountain tournament, that was the night we did the training session where several of the fans got in the ring with Brian Hildebrand and Brian Logan, and Chris Jericho was like the referee / instructor, although he was injured with his arm. He couldn't do much. And, you know, we learned a few basic moves and then had a little bit of a match. No fans there, by the way, for anyone listening. It was a closed-door thing for, you know, the smart fans from out of town that weren't coming back. All of a sudden, in the middle of the match, I get pulled off the apron and thrown into the post. And I go with it. You know, I'm having fun. I'm a kid doing this. It was Doug Gibson who was there. I guess it was his ring, I think, maybe. And he did that. And then after it was over, Dave Lane and Tim Knoll, who were fans from Virginia, great guys. Dave Lane's still out there. I know he listens to the show. Really great guy. Pulled me aside. They're like, you know that guy's a piece of crap, right? Like, they were already hip to like what a con man he was in 94 before anyone was. They knew it right away. That was the first memory I have of him.
Oh, God. As a matter of fact, years after that, because when he canceled those shows, I fucking called up and he talked to his dad on the phone. He wouldn't get on the phone. He said, well, he's just lost too much money. I said, you tell him if your jack-off son doesn't quit playing around in the wrestling business, he's going to lose more than money because we do this for a living and we take it seriously, and he's lost all this talent a fucking weekend of work, and he's lost me a goddamn weekend of fucking revenue. And if we ever see him again, he's going to end up in the fucking hospital. I just want you to know that because your son's a fucking goof. He got hot at me. He said, well, I'm not going to let anybody talk to me that way. I said, you just did. Because what are you going to do about it? You come down here and I'll say it to your fucking face, you fat country fuck. So that was 1994. In 2000, I think it was, when did The Marine come out with John Cena?
Oh, geez.
2007, 2008?
Yeah, in that range, yeah.
The idiot had come back and was running those shows again that were drawing pretty good. And Dennis Condrey called me and said, Marvin Ward wants to bring you to Virginia. I said, what? He said, he really is running these shows and he's doing good business, but he wants to bring you in here. So Marvin Ward paid me $1,500 to come to his show, plus another $1,500 to come in a day before and tell him how to run his fucking wrestling promotion. And then he took us all to the Marine that night afterwards and took us all to the movies. I got $3,000 to walk to the ring with the Midnight Express on his show and to tell him that everything he was doing was wrong. And here's how you really do it. And he didn't do anything. And they were looking for him moments later. And he was underground again.
Was $3,000 enough money to make you sit through the Marine?
Well, Stace was with me and, you know, she wanted to see it. And I was like, all right. And we were, you know, we went to the movies with the Midnight Express. And
is it weird?
Marvin sat down the fucking way.
Is it weird for you seeing like Cena, someone who you knew you had in OVW when he first got started, to see him on the big screen in a movie theater? Is it at all weird?
Yeah, it kind of was back then. I mean, you know, it was... I don't want to knock John when I say this, but it was even weirder seeing Rock in actual movies that really fucking drew. And it's a big budget shit. I mean, you know, because that was one of the WWE Studios movies. And it was the joke at the time we watched the movie. I said, my God, the same people wrote this movie as write their TV show. Whenever they can't figure something out, they just blow something up. It was the same thing, but it was a big shock seeing Rock in actual Hollywood motion pictures that grossed hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, that was kind of cool.
All right, our next question was sent in to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Nick in New Jersey. It's a topic we hear from people about every now and then. Let's put this to rest, Jim. Jim, you have always been known as a straight shooter, to say the least. There was a situation some time back where the Young Bucks claimed that you were direct messaging them on Twitter, essentially saying your hatred of them was all work for publicity.
Oh, God. Now it's become a direct message on Twitter. I know where this story started out, but go ahead.
It has become the go-to thing for internet nerds who want to shit on you and your opinions as being invalid. I'm not sure if I remember you ever addressing this or commenting on the same, but I would like for you to clarify the whole situation if possible. What really happened?
Well, first of all, it's changed now because now it's direct message on Twitter. And I hate to say this, but I have to tell the truth. I hate to say this in public, but I do know now how to direct message on Twitter. I figured it out because, see, I didn't know that you could message people on Twitter for the longest time. And I think you remember when I said this to you. I said, did you know you could message people on fucking Twitter? Because when you have the Twitter screen, there's a fucking, I always just looked at the home, which means people that you follow have tweeted stuff, or notifications, which means if you're mentioned, right, you're in that. But then I saw the thing that said moments. I don't know what the fuck moments is right now. And see, I've still got the old Twitter also. I don't like the new layout. So I had somebody give me the gimmick to reinstall the old Twitter. I don't know what moments are, but I found out that messages, the little envelope up there, one day I saw a 1 up above that. So I clicked on it, and it was somebody that I followed sending me a message. So I wrote them back, but I don't want to encourage this because I don't look at that a lot, and it's another way for people to get a hold of me. But no, I've never direct messaged anybody directly. I have to reply to it. I don't know how to make one up because I've never done that. So, but the point is, I didn't direct message the fucking Young Bucks. Either they've changed their story, else why somebody has added to it. What they reference was during one of Jeff Jarrett's Global Force Wrestling shows, what was it, 2016, several summers ago. He did ballparks with the minor league baseball teams in conjunction. And the 3 first ones that he did were Bowling Green, Kentucky, Jackson, Tennessee, and Knoxville. And since that's close to me, he called me and asked me to come and be basically the name star for the autograph session. And also because they were doing a radio promotion, and at 1 or 2 of those places, they had one of the DJs set to be the babyface manager and wanted me to work as the heel manager against him and wanted me to set that match up because I've done a bunch of those. So I'm booked on the shows. And I don't remember whether it was the Young Bucks were there one of those weekends, but not the other one. So I don't remember whether this was in Jackson, Tennessee or Bowling Green, Kentucky. But we're at the minor league ballpark. I'm there early, obviously, because that's what I do. And then I'm wandering around the fucking park, looking around at things and everything, talking to some of the people I actually liked that were there. And I walk back into the locker room, and I've told this story before, there was 12 guys in the locker room, all laying on the couches or sitting on chairs or sitting on the floor, every single one of them looking at their telephones. And found out later on one of the guys was actually texting the guy on the other side of the room. Nobody telling stories, nobody calling spots, nobody talking about fucking matches, nobody cussing anybody, nobody talking about pussy, sitting there playing with their fucking phones. So when I walk through, the door slams and I see the Young Bucks laying there. It's the first time I've seen them since they super kicked the kid for their birthday, or for his birthday. I didn't want to start the whole thing right then because I'm there as an invitation from Jeff to do the fucking thing with the radio guy, but I couldn't resist getting a little dig in. And also I didn't want to be the prick and ignore everybody. So as I walked through, I said, "Hey, Bucks, good to see you. We got the only angle in wrestling anybody believes." And I walked out the other side. I think Road Warrior Buck may have said, "Hey, Jim," with all the personality that he has. And that was the exchange. I didn't need to add the real smart aleck comment that they believe the angle because it's real and you two are a couple of goofs. But I thought I got the point across. Apparently I didn't. Well, actually, I think what happened was I got the point across, But then they decided to make themselves look better by saying, see, I mean, Cornette wants to work with us. It's all an angle. He wants to work with us because we're so big and we're such stars and he can actually make money off of us. Well, you see how that worked out. It was not followed up on, my big offer, by either side. But out of that exchange, they got the story that somehow this is, at least to tell people, this is all a work. He wants to work with us. We just don't want to do it.
It's become a big moment in Young Buck lore that Jim Cornette wanted to work with them at the ballpark show. And
yeah. Well, I didn't want to work with him at the ballpark show because the fucking card was already booked and I was nowhere near the Young Bucks match and wasn't going to be.
No, but you were ready to hit the road.
And explained that to Jeff when he told me who was going to be there. But yeah, I was ready to go on the road with him and just take this big drawing angle. They could make a star out of me. You know, and here's the thing, they don't want to admit it. Olivier doesn't want to admit it. None of them want to admit it, but they know because I have had mutual acquaintances tell them. And people that know me know that this is not a work the way I think, that I mean everything I say about the wrestling business and people that shouldn't be involved in it. So they know, they've been told by people that they know, no, he's not working. And no, he means everything he says. And he probably would run you down if there was no witnesses, et cetera, et cetera. But they say that in public so that it makes them look better because then it becomes, oh, I'm the one that can't work with. I'm the one that can't come and play in their game because it's their ball. No, motherfuckers, you can't play my game because you're not smart enough.
Let me ask you, your feelings and thoughts aside, their issues with you, how much of that do you think stems from you not using them with Ring of Honor?
Well, that's another thing. They know exactly what happened there, but I think they've convinced themselves in their heads that the reason why that they didn't just dominate Ring of Honor in 2011 or 2012 was because I held them down. I've told this story. I'll tell it and this will be the end of it because I'm getting cranky talking about these people. The Young Bucks, Kerry Silkin always liked them. The Ring of Honor fan base liked them. They had been there before, and Kerry had given them a deal where he was paying each one of them $500 a night apiece, plus a plane ticket from California, plus hotel, although at that time, before Sinclair got involved, they would put 8 guys in a hotel room. But still, flying these guys all the way from California and paying them $500 a night. So they, at the time that Sinclair purchased Ring of Honor, the Young Bucks were still under contract to TNA. But they call Hunter Johnston, Delirious, and they want to come in. Is there a spot? And we get them on the phone. And I told them, I said, guys, yes, the audience likes you. We would be interested. Whenever you're finished with your contract there, we've just started this here, so we're putting everything in place. But whenever you're done with your contracts or you're going to be done, let us know. We'll try to work something out. Because their contracts were going to run till the end of that year, at least another 6 months. They called back like 3 weeks later. Well, we quit. When can we start? What? What? We didn't tell you to fucking quit. See, their whole thing is, well, we went and quit to go there, and then they wouldn't use us. No, we didn't tell them to quit. We said, let us know when your contracts are up. If you're not going to re-sign, if you're still interested, we'll try to work something out. And then suddenly they quit. And now we've got them. I'm like, what the fuck? And we tell Joe Koff, well, we've got the Bucks. Where do they live? California. What? This is when Greg the office boy was trying to get us to book house shows and only buy 6 plane tickets. Try doing that almost anywhere in the country when most of your fucking wrestlers live in the Northeast or Florida. So we end up, because now they're homeless, we felt bad. So we signed and we said, we're going to use you guys on television tapings because we have a bigger budget. We can buy more plane tickets and see if we can fucking, get you over to where then finally we'll be doing better and they will loosen up on the plane ticket situation. But then that's when I found out how much Kerry had been paying them because they didn't want to take less than they'd been making under Kerry Silkin. So now we've got to fucking pay these 2 fucking little middle school kids $500 a night apiece, which is almost as much as anybody in the company was making at that point. The main event guys. the Jay Lethals, the fucking Davey Richardses, the goddamn Briscoe brothers. And two plane tickets from California and a fucking hotel room for a house show. They were selling 0 tickets because we had real tag teams then. We had the Kings of Wrestling, Hero and Claudio. We had the Briscoe brothers. We had Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. Even Kenny King and Rhett Titus. We're going to put the fucking Young Bucks in front of any of these fucking grown men? And every time we'd book them with somebody, they'd have stinky matches because they got pissed and pitched temper tantrums because we told them not to do all their goofy shit that nobody could live through, and instead have a logical match. So then they'd work flat-footed like Bruiser and Crusher on television to piss us off and show us that they were right and we were wrong. So I couldn't wait to get rid of these motherfuckers, but I was still honoring the contract that we signed with them, that they strong-armed us into signing, but I couldn't wait till it was over with because they fucking stunk and they had bad attitudes. And we could have put that money towards something that was going to draw us some money at the time, because this was years before the goddamn mass hysteria of how over the Young Bucks were in Japan and how Kenny Olivier was the world's greatest wrestling artist when he flunked out of fucking every wrestling school he ever went to. And they couldn't sell pussy on a troop train, much less a fucking ticket.
And they weren't over in Japan.
And they weren't over in Japan anyway. We had Joe Koff breathing down our neck and Greg the office boy complaining that we're flying these fucking kids in from California. But somehow they have convinced themselves that it was me all along. It was me all along. Joe Koff wasn't saying that. Greg the office boy wasn't saying that. It was Jim Cornette. Well, here's the thing. If they'd have been the Briscoes in the ring, if they'd have been Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin in the ring, if they'd have been the American Wolves in the ring, I would have fought harder for them. But it wasn't me. It was Joe Koff going, why did we adopt these fucking orphan children from California and paying them this much money to come and work underneath matches? Because you can't put them on top because nobody can buy them physically against the fucking main event talent that we have. They didn't like that.
And if anyone ever wants to know why Ring of Honor lost so much money before Sinclair purchased it, there's a great example. $500 a night.
Oh, God. I loved Kerry. I tried to help him. When I found out originally, when he called me in to ask me instead of shutting the company down, he said, can you help me not lose this much money and eventually make some? In September of 2009. And when I found out what he was paying the guys, I was shocked on both ends. He was getting some ridiculous deals where guys should have been making twice as much as they were, according to their contribution on the card or potential. And then there was the other way where he had given indiscriminate raises to fucking people that he just liked personally. And oh my God, goddamn, that team with Rhett Titus and Kenny King. Rhett Titus was doing all the work. Kenny King just fucking wrestled once every 3 weeks and went and shook his dick in Las Vegas. Because in addition to being a lying sack of shit, he was also just an outlaw wrestler and didn't apply himself to work full time. So he never got any better. He was always fairly awkward, but Rhett was really digging in. Rhett was making $150 and Kenny King was making $350 before I could stop it. But yeah, and at one point, that's when I had to sit Kerry down and I said, you had 38 different people you paid on this particular live event to be on the card as a talent in some fashion, referee, manager, wrestler, whatever. I said, you take those 7 off. Now you got 31. You've just saved several $1,000s per night plus trance. I figured out the exact amount he saved. I said, are anybody going to set the seats on fire if those 7 guys aren't on a show, but the other 31 are? No. I said, good. You just saved up several $1,000s permanently. Fucking give them their notice. Bring them back when you're making some money. Some of the guys didn't like that. They'd rather nobody had a place to work because there was no company, rather than you cut the fucking fat off the thing and try to concentrate on your positive talent. I was at the show in Phoenix where Kerry looked around and they'd flown every single fucker. Nobody could drive to Phoenix, for fuck's sake. They flew everybody. And Kerry's sitting in a fucking building going, what am I running, Make-A-Wish? But as long as all the guys got to go out and do their fucking emoting, they didn't think about that side of it. And I'm sorry, but anybody that thinks the Young Bucks could stand next to the Briscoe brothers, the American Wolves, fucking Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, and a few of the other tag teams that we had in and out at that time, and people not fucking snicker, I'm sorry, fuck you. You're just lying to yourself. Just like the Young Bucks lie to themselves when they think that it's everybody else's issue and they're fucking superstars and their farts don't smell bad. Fuck.
All right, well.
As Ricky Morton used to say one time, I've taken pills bigger than those boys. Let's play some songs.
Well, one final question.
One final question.
And then it looks like, based on what you're saying, we'll probably get some more questions on the experience this week. I don't know what the experience will be. Final question, sent in the CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Adam Stringer. Howdy from Houston. Curious on the legendary Jim's comments, thoughts, and stories on ravishing Rick Rude. Also interested in what he has to say about Rick Rude appearing on WCW and WWF TV at the same time.
Oh, I remember that one. That one caused some controversy. I always liked Rick Rude. He was a great guy. We met him when we went down to Mid-South. He had just come down from Minnesota. He was a rookie, Rick Rude, R-O-O-D. And, he was a good, big, athletic-looking guy. He was so green. He didn't have a lot of experience with anything at that point. So even, I've told a story before about Dennis trying to call a fucking spot with him. He's like, I can't understand what you're saying. But I've also used Rude as a example of somebody, the way that people used to progress in the business, where he's a green babyface, doesn't know dick all of shit in Louisiana in 84. And then in 85, he gets a chance at a spot in Florida. The territory was down, but there was a lot of guys to learn from. And by 86, he's in the Carolinas, and he's a tag team with Manny Fernandez, and he's being featured on top. And the next year he leaves and he goes to the WWF. And, I forgot Memphis, in the middle, Memphis after Louisiana, where he first got a chance to main event, and Lawler could lead him, but he got to do promos. But each successive territory was a step up where he was featured better, got more experience, worked with better talent. And finally, 5 years later, he's in the WWF, ravishing Rick Rude, and, he's a goddamn superstar. And, I hated I hated he got hurt, that fucking stupid Japanese stage bullshit that blew his back out, and the match was Sting, doing a dive, and that they didn't need to do. And it's always awkward having a ringside area that's cluttered like that and has uneven surfaces. But, after he hurt his back, that pretty much was his career and the Lloyds of London policy and et cetera. But he was another one of those guys that got slipped through the contract cracks and got a chance to fucking fuck Vince during the Monday Night Wars by being on both shows at the same time, Luger being the other one. But even Luger wasn't on both channels at the exact same time. They just didn't know in the WWF that he was going to be on Nitro that night. But Rude was actually on both shows in the same night because Raw was taped and Nitro was live. But I always liked Rick. He was a heck of a guy. Great worker, great talker. Didn't put up with any bullshit. I've never had a crossword with him. He was very cool.
What was the reaction in the WWE offices, or at least with Vince, when Rick Rude showed up on Nitro?
As Pat Patterson would say, the office went banana. They were bullshit. They were like, what the fuck. They got us again. It almost started to be fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. But that's why Vince got so anal on the contracts at that point.
And that was a situation, was that because of the Bret Hart Montreal Screwjob that Rick Rude said, I don't want to work here anymore, I'm going to go there?
Well, that was stated after the fact. I think part of it was also because he saw the opportunity that he had a window and he could fucking use one against the other. And I'm sure he got more money to go south than he did to stay where he was. So, Rick was a capitalist. He was going to go where the money was, but there was probably a little bit of indignation there as well.
All right. Well, with that, the drive-thru is closed.
Thank God.
Of course, if you have a song you want to submit to the drive-thru, along with your questions, send it to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com. Don't forget, send an MP3 or an unlisted YouTube link, a SoundCloud link if you really have to. Don't send another file, because if it's not one of those, it won't be played. There's a few of you I'm specifically speaking to out there. You know who I'm talking to. I'm pointing my finger, too, while I say
Yeah, you're pointing.
Of course, the Jim Cornette Experience debuts each and every Friday, wherever it is that you find your favorite podcasts. I don't know what's going to be on this week's show. It's going to be a big mystery. You all need to tune in. I'm sure it'll be something that causes a lot of people to lose their minds. The Jim Cornette Experience. Of course, you can access the experience whenever you want. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, Experience and Drive-Thru episodes, clips, and omnibus collections, as well as the fantastic exclusive Travis Heckel artwork that everyone loses their minds over. tinyurl.com/official corny YouTube, or just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. Don't forget, patreon.com/Cornette. Each and every week, another batch of episodes, classic episodes of the Drive-Thru and the Experience go up. It's a great way to access the archive of all these shows. One of the most recent episodes that went up is Jim and the Exotic Adrian Street. Check this out today, patreon.com/Cornette. You can follow Jim on Twitter at the Jim Cornette. You can follow me on Twitter at Great Brian Last. You can hear me on the 605 Superpodcast. 605pod.com are available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcasts. Jim, there's been so much going on in the world of wrestling, I've lost track. Where are we today with Cornette's Collectibles?
This fucking show's been so long, I said at the start of the program, I gave the entire update, and now you've forgotten already. You can send me money if you want, but you don't have to, and I'd encourage you not to send me too much for at least another 4 or 5 days.
How's that for a sales pitch? JimCornette.com. But until Friday on The Experience, and next week, back on Monday here on the Drive-Thru. For Jim Cornette, I'm the Great Brian Last. Fuck AEW. Tally-ho!